in the continued adventures of Disco Ocelot, who I think I'm continuing to call Ocelot, even though I know his name is ostensibly Harry Dubois. I'm sure I will get more folks asking why I call him Ocelot, especially when I'm clearly at a point in the game where you know his name. But, like, I don't know, at this point it's an affectionate nickname. And, you know, he seems like he wants to distance himself from his name. So, in a way, we are helping him with a new name if he feels like his other name is a dead name of sorts. So, really, I'm being thoughtful and considerate of his trauma by calling him by, well, normally it would be the name that a person asks to be called by, but I have bequeathed this name to him. No, so I do want to say, I'm sorry, we will get started into recapping the game, but so I recently read, over the past week and a half or so, I have read it's a nonfiction psychology text for a general audience called The Body Keeps the Score, which I had heard about for years, and I'd heard really glowing things about it, but I hadn't read it, and I actually hadn't intended to read it until I was browsing the Libby app, because this is what I do instead of doom scrolling. I read books and check out my library. It's that and AO3 much better habits than doom scrolling. Would definitely recommend. But it was like, hey, do you want to skip the line and borrow The Body Keeps the Score for a week? And I was like, sure, I guess that sounds like something I would read for fun. And it was, and I actually wound up somehow being able to check it out for a second week, which I don't think I was supposed to be able to do. So I might have found a glitch in the system, but don't tell anyone, because it let me finish the book. And it was really interesting because it's a psychology book about trauma as a fundamental underpinning for a great many things that people struggle with, both, like, you know, severe trauma, especially the kind of like chronic complex repeat trauma that people can experience and not be able to escape as children, as opposed to like one horrifying incident that happens to you as an adult, and kind of like how so much of what is wrong with us, so to speak, can be traced back to formative brain shortcomings, ways in which your brain doesn't quite take form, ways in which things that are supposed to happen with your brain as you develop don't, and kind of how you can, like, this guy who wrote it, who's a scholar and a psychologist, therapist, I'm not quite sure what the right exact term is. I don't know exactly what his degree is in, but he's got a degree in helping people with bad brain issues, and then he has been trying to treat people with bad brain issues, and he wrote about like the research studies and things that he's found. But it was fascinating. And the reason why I'm mentioning this on the start of a Disco Elysium stream is that well, obviously Ocelot has gone through some sort of significant trauma, and his brain has given him some interesting coping mechanisms. And there were some terms there that I hadn't really thought about before playing this game that came up, like talking about the limbic system. Like, it had the layers of your brain, basically, like the reptilian brain, which I don't remember the name, and I think the limbic system, which is like one step more, and then there's another one, and it's kind of like, depending on how early the trauma happens or how bad the trauma is, it can kind of like set you back to that being the dominant functioning part of you. And it was really interesting because that definitely parallels how they've set up Disco Elysium at the very beginning, certainly, in the aftermath of this great trauma that he's clearly had some sort of a sustained emotional trauma, and then he has this physically traumatic inciting incident of essentially trying to drink himself to death. But some of the things that, like, this book, I mean, it's fascinating as somebody who obviously really enjoys studying people. I found it fascinating to get a better understanding of how other people's brains work and why people are the way they are, and a reminder to be patient with people instead of blaming them for some bad behavior that's maybe outside of their control, focusing instead on what can be done to shift things so that that behavior doesn't happen. Really interesting stuff. Also interesting to kind of, obviously my life traumas have not been as severe as a lot of people's. And so the cases that he was talking about and the way that people's trauma manifests aren't directly applicable to my life, but in some small ways they are. And so it's kind of interesting to be like, all right, well, what can I do to try to work around this? Like, you know, I've been having some degree of mild dissociation that might be responsible for my memory issues. So like, what can I do? Like, how do people work on dissociation? Oh, mindfulness. So I've been kind of trying to work on mindfulness the past week or so, because that's how I roll. But it's really, I don't know. It was really fascinating, and it kept making me think of Disco Elysium, because as much as this game is really interested in talking about, like, they really have a lot to say about politics, about society, about forms of government and philosophy. But they have clearly done a lot of reading and thinking and learning and understanding about psychology, psychiatry, all of those good things that have to do with brains. And it really informs the writing that they do, even with the different components of him breaking into pieces like a form of dissociation. Is really interesting. And it makes me wonder whether we are in some way going to try to integrate the different components of Ocelot as we play this game, if we work towards healing. Is that something we're going to see happen? And if so, how will that manifest in the gameplay? I don't know, man. I don't know. I was interested though, because like there was they used the word like insula or something like that to describe something about the brain, and I was like, insulina. Probably totally coincidental that there are these two words that I have never really encountered before, and that one of them has to do with the brain and one of them has to do with like a group of islands or something like that. But when you don't know a lot of words in a certain category or another language, you will start seeing connections that aren't there, because you know so few words that any word that makes you think of one of the few words you do know, you're like, these must be related. It's like, no, Lauren. I definitely do that with languages I don't speak and I'm trying to learn. So there you go. I don't know that has anything to do with anything, but that was what I've been reading. I don't know what you've been reading. I hope you've been reading something if you enjoy reading or listening to books. I don't know. I like books. Got me thinking about Disco Elysium. We'll see if I can remember what I read from that book as time goes on, because my memory is worse now. For some reason, my health is better, my memory is worse, so I'm doing my best. So speaking of memory, let's talk a little bit about what happened last time. So last time we had this most exciting dumpster diving session in which we found some racism and the clothes of the dead guy that really shouldn't be in the dumpster. Like, that's really suspect. How did they get in the dumpster? There's only 2 people or categories of people, groups of people, that have access to the dumpster because it was locked. Unless somebody left the dumpster unlocked by accident, which I am absolutely not guilty of doing at this very moment. The only people who could get in there are either people who are directly affiliated with the Whirling in Rags and have the key, or people involved with the trash pickup who have the key. Nobody else could get in there. So it does seem like somebody in the Whirling in Rags may be involved or helping with the cover-up. Now, it's also possible that they just threw the dead clothes in a trash bag inside and it got taken out to the trash. But no, it wasn't in a trash bag. It was just like thrown in there with the other trash. I don't know. I'm curious about that, and that is definitely suspect, and something that I think we're going to have to ask people about to try to get to the bottom of this murder. Because I have to remember that we are trying to solve a murder here, but there's a lot of other things going on, and it's easy to forget that, in fact, solving the murder is one of the main goals of the game. At least at this point. Because you want to solve whatever's going on with Ocelot, you want to solve the politics, and you start kind of separating out what's going on here politically from the murder, even though obviously the murder is in some way connected to it, either caused by one section, like one group versus the other group, or framing one group. I don't know. But you get kind of wrapped up in the strike and the political situation around the strike, and the union and Joyce and all of that good stuff. And it can get distracting away from like, oh yeah, I'm a cop trying to solve this murder. So we did manage to get components of all of those questions in our dumpster diving. Hello, Great Gatsby. I am really enjoying this game. It's really good. There's a lot to it. I'm kind of recapping what I did last week, and then we're going to dive into what we're doing this week, because I'm the slowest person in the world. No, apparently I'm the second slowest person in the world. Apparently there is a Disco Elysium streamer who is slower than me, and I feel like I need to either befriend this person or challenge them to a duel. I will trust you all to recommend which of those I should do. And we obviously we got something to do with the murder. We got some stuff about world building, and got healed by being grossed out by racism. There's worse things, worse reaction to things. But most importantly, we found this damaged ledger that Ocelot did not want to find. He was having kind of like a little panic moment. You know? Trying desperately to say there's nothing in there, don't look in there, don't look in there. And when we look through it, it turns out, it's his paperwork. And there's something kind of embarrassing about the fact that he threw away his paperwork, and that for all we know, something really important and sensitive, some sensitive police documents could have been seen and possibly even stolen, and we wouldn't know. So there's concerns about that. But there's something bigger, something about this damaged ledger that is more concerning to him than embarrassment about having thrown it away, or potential embarrassment about like him finding out about the way that he writes about his cases, although it turns out that he writes about his cases in a similar way to how Kim does. And we got to have a little tarot tangent about the Hanged Man, and how perfect that is. Hi, Some Triangles, welcome back. I'm just catching us up with where we are, and so there's something in here. There is something in here that is scarier to him than the humiliation and shame that he feels about his job situation, I think. Because we've seen his shame, and we've seen that he takes damage from it. It's clearly upsetting and hurtful to the point that, like, we're taking morale point losses. But I think that whatever is inside here is something that is personal to him, and his personal trauma is more severe than his workplace trauma in that regard. Like, he takes morale damage for his workplace trauma, but he tried to drink himself to death for his personal trauma. If that makes sense. That seems like that's on like a different level of bad. They're both pretty terrible situations for him, but I feel like if he's having this negative a reaction, it's something deeper and more personally damaging. So I think it might have something to do with the mysterious ex. It could also, it can't be anything about him being like let go from his job, because we talked to his workplace and nobody there said anything about it. So I think it's going to be something personal about that loss. And I think that loss is what triggered him to do the drinking and the kind of self-destructive bender previous to that. Because that's kind of one of the first things that he thinks about when he comes to. And it seems to be one of the things he's most scared of. So I might be projecting, because to me it seems like personal pain about your personal life is more significant than workplace pain. I've had, really damaging workplace experiences, so I get that, but that's my thought. Baldur's Gate 3 is not a game I'll probably ever play, because I'm just really not a big fan of that kind of game or storytelling, but most of the people that I know who've played it have really enjoyed it, so I'm very glad for them. It seems like a lot of folks feel like it is exactly what it needs to be, and that's exciting. There are some really good games out there, and there's games for everyone. So if that's not my jam, I can play other things like this hot mess. All right. So I promised last time that I was going to dive on into the damage ledger and try to open it up. So I think we're going to do that, and I think I might stop stalling. I'm kind of scared about what we'll find there and what it'll do to my character. But I can push on. Oh, see, I would never expect a Baldur's Gate game to be better than good for a fantasy power fantasy game, because that's what Baldur's Gate is. That's what people who play games like that want out of games like that, and that's part of why I don't like them, because that's not what I want. I don't like BioWare games, and that's largely what they have to offer. So, I did not stream Ocarina of Time. No, I had actually played Ocarina of Time before when I was younger, and then I played through it with my ex-husband, trading off, who fought the hard things. I made him fight all the hard things. And I don't think it'd be very interesting because I know it better, and don't really have anything new or exciting to offer. So I started with Majora's Mask, and then played Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and I'd like to do a few more Zeldas, but there's so many games and I'm so slow. I need to stop being so slow. I need to fix that. It's too slow. Too much, Lauren, too much.
It's the letter you found in the trash. A cabbage of papers hanging from the board, with the permeables drawer inside. It's barely held together by a clip, then made complete by the faint smell of urinal cleaner.
I haven't played KOTOR. I didn't bother with KOTOR because I haven't liked anything else by BioWare. I've been told that KOTOR and Jade Empire are better, but I feel like I so aggressively am not the target audience and so actively don't enjoy their writing that their best is still not going to hit for me. Cabbage of Papers. Yeah, no, the writing is really, really excellent. It's very evocative indeed. It gives you an idea of these different pages that are layered, and also that don't quite fit perfectly together and are wrinkled and gross, ruffled even. All right, so I can either see if I can read the case files now, or I can try interfacing and try to make myself open the clipboard. I don't know. Let's start with a success, possibly. Yeah, no, they do save their most poetic writing for the grossest stuff, and I think that's intentional. I'll keep this short. So there's a bunch of different movements of writing, just as there are movements of art over the eras, and they tend to have philosophies. And so you had like a romantic style, and then you had realism, which was like, no, we're going to try to show the world as it is. And then you have naturalism, which is like, we're going to show the world how it is, and the world is a dark and gross and gritty place. Not quite grimdark, but really kind of leaning into reinforcing like kind of this mentality that so much of writing and so much of storytelling glosses over the gross stuff, and makes things a little bit prettier and a little bit brighter and a little bit cleaner than they actually would be. And so kind of as a response to that, it's realistic, but it leans more heavily into making sure that it's kind of like they're so affronted that other people are leaving that out, and they think that makes it unrealistic to leave that stuff out, that they are doing more of it than would be in a flat realistic thing, because they're overcompensating, trying to make their point and trying to show that the world has this grit. So for me, I mean, Disco Elysium is not, it's not realistic. it is intentionally surrealistic with this like weird, not quite right world, and the art style is very surreal. Uh, it feels strange. The writing style goes a little bit in weird places, but it feels like it kind of has this naturalistic leaning towards emphasizing the grit and the dirt and the grossness. And that's not my personal preference. I don't think that that is what defines the world, and I don't think that dwelling on it for me makes things feel more real. But for other people, that is what it takes. So you know, that's a valid artistic choice. But I do feel that that's the artistic choice that they've made, and I think that that gets, I think that that really affects. I mean, you can really see that in how interested they are in making sure that you feel the the grossness by using this really, really evocative poetic language and describing it in detail to try to put you there and play up the sensory details. It's a choice they're making. Like, that's not plain realism. It's effective. There are people who I don't know. There were a bunch of cartoons in the 90s that I really hated that did that I thought were really gross. See, I've read some noir, and I never felt like noir was like, let's discuss the shit and the trash and the fart jokes and the rotting and the grit and the dirtiness and show the dirt under everyone's fingernails. Like, noir always felt stylized to me in a more cool and disconnected kind of way. Granted, I'm not a noir expert. I've just read a couple of noir books and seen like mostly noir pastiches, but yeah. Well, so like loving the world warts and all, finding beauty in a deeply flawed world. That is definitely true, but in a story that emphasizes the warts and makes them bigger and more pronounced and shines a spotlight on them in particular, to say, do you see the warts and how gross they are and the dirt around them and the hair coming out of them? It's really interesting, because it doesn't, to me, come across as being like, this is a gross job, because they do that with the way people are drawn. They do that with especially the surreal and horrifying images in your thought cabinet. Like, those are the grossest things in the game. And they really emphasize a feeling that has nothing to do with Ocelot's job as an investigator, and everything to do with the style that they've chosen. And it's interesting because, for me, I like stories that are dark, but with an undercurrent of hope, that have darkness, but also light in them. And if something doesn't have enough darkness, it doesn't resonate as well with me. And I know that's my personal preference, and does not reflect everyone's taste. And I feel like I would be curious about the media that the people who created this game like to consume and what most speaks to them, whether they went outside of their own comfort zone, for example, for a particular reason to emphasize a certain feeling for this particular story, or if their tastes tend toward emphasizing the warts and things like that. I don't know. I really don't know. But it's not as simple as saying finding hope and beauty in a dirty and hopeless world, because you can do that without putting so much rot and excrement and drawing people's faces so grotesquely and having grotesque imagery. Like, the real world can be a flawed and difficult and dark place, and for some people that far outweighs the joy and the ease in their lives. But the real world doesn't necessarily have that degree of grotesque. That's an intentional exaggeration in a particular style, in a particular direction. And it's the choice that they've made, and it makes a very strong impression here. I don't know, maybe I've read too many things that were inspired by folklore and too much classic literature as opposed to modern literature, because I didn't associate Eastern European tastes with the grotesque. Maybe that's a gap in my knowledge. No, but see, it's not just the corpse that is described in that way, and it's not just the corpse that is illustrated that way. If it were solely the corpse, that would be one thing. But everything in the game has some degree of the grotesque about it, except for places or characters that are especially removed from it. Like Annette, we discussed, was our cinnamon roll. There's nothing really grotesque about her, but all of the characters are slightly grotesque caricatures of humanity in their art, especially in their art, but also to some degree in how they act. And yeah, the thought cabinet illustrations are extraordinarily grotesque. It's not stuff that I would choose to look at in my spare time. And this is not a criticism of the game. It's a very interesting choice that they've made. And I think that may be one way in which this game doesn't fully resonate with me, where I feel as though I am observing I'm observing a creation by people who are quite different from me. Which is really interesting. I've made the contrast between this and Toby Fox games because those are just like, I'm like, oh yes, I may not have Homestuck in my creative DNA, but in all other ways, I'm like, yes, this really feels, it may not be exactly what I would make, but I feel like I have like a level of understanding, a level of similarity. This game, I don't have any of that at all. It's a very alien experience. Which is really funny, because somebody left a comment on YouTube. I'm sorry, I said I was gonna get started and then I keep talking. But somebody left a comment on YouTube that that this is like the most Disco Elysium styled playthrough of Disco Elysium, which I then of course had to try to interrogate what that meant and why they said that and why people agreed with it. So it's interesting. I don't know, maybe because this game doesn't feel familiar or comfortable, like it's not like stylistically related to me in any capacity. Maybe that emphasizes that. I'm not sure. The thought cabinet art is really effective. I'm not criticizing it. None of this is a criticism. It's just one more thing that is interesting, that is a conscious choice that they made, that I'm curious about why and what that says about them as people, and that makes the game never be something that I'll fully feel at home with. Okay, so some of you guys are doing math. I can't do the math. I actually took calculus, but I haven't really done higher level math since I was like 18, so I've barely even done arithmetic. So I'm going to leave that to you math folks, and I'm going to say 83% sounds likely that I'll get it, but I might give it a try just to see. Anyway, I hope you don't mind. I feel like I just like dumped my junk drawer again a little bit more. It's just something I was thinking about as I was wanting to describe this game as naturalistic, and then I had to double check, is that actually what I mean? And the answer is yes, it was. There's a few different ways of being the naturalistic school of writing, but at least part of it, I think, fits that that leaning into the dirt. And combining that with the grotesque, I think, manages to articulate what I'm trying to say about this game. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and try this one though. We're gonna start easy. Of course, watch us fail this. It'd be really funny. It's a logic one. Let's give this a try. All right, you ready? I don't want to deal with probabilities. I remember that probability is really, really, really obnoxious. I don't remember what it is, but it has its own math, and it's not fun for me. I like puzzling through, like, why does it work that way? Explain to me how they came up with it, but like actually doing it, mm-mm. 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 All right.
Yes, you can piece them together using the alphanumeric code on the margin. It always begins with HDB 41, then date of initialization and time of arrival on the scene, followed by the title. For example, HDB 41120111700, the next world mural.
Okay, so obviously HDB is Harry Dubois. Signs are pointing towards that actually being the name of Ocelot. Okay, I have to comment on how interesting it is when people say H instead of H. Is that a regional thing? Is that a broadly not American thing? Like the way Z versus Z, like Z is American, Z is non-American? Is H specifically British, or is it also in other, like do other dialects and accents of English pronounce that as well? Is that only specific regions? Like, is that specific accents in England, or a universally British thing? Like, that's what I want to know. Specifically upper class? So is our narrator's accent here an upper class accent? I'm not exactly sure. Okay, other people will try to sound posh by saying it that way. Interesting. All right, yeah, because that's the thing, is like it doesn't feel like it hasn't felt like it's like super universal. So I was trying to figure out kind of like what the, I can't think of the word. Demographics isn't the right word, but close enough. Who actually says it? And we've come to the conclusion it is not a general all British things, like specific British accents. You can say that. And if anybody can weigh in, if you're like Australian or something, are any of the accents in that part of the world, do they ever use H? Because I've never heard it in the US or Canada, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist in North America. I don't know why I care about these things so much. I'm sorry. I just do. Okay, I grew up with my mom confusing everybody by saying ITZ, spelling out the end of my last name over the phone. All the Americans were so confused. So I just find this stuff fascinating. All right, so HDB, Harry Dubois, Officer Precinct. Well, that is Officer, and I'm Precinct 41, right? That's right. Isn't that my precinct? I'm pretty sure that is. And I'm trying to remember, is it like 27 or 37 that's Kim's? I'm trying to remember and failing, but that is not a surprise to anyone, certainly not me. So yes, that is Officer Precinct. That is correct. 57. I got the 7 right. I got the 7. My memory is so bad these days that I will take that as a partial victory. 57 like the ketchup. Okay, that's a mnemonic. I might be able to keep that. I need mnemonics. They're not a guarantee, but they make things more likely. All right. Weren't those Officer Precincts? Put that connection together.
Why, yes. Your precinct number is 41.
Thank you, game. And HGB is Harry Dubois.
Every last alphanumeric in the files begins with it. And these are your case files. It's safe to say HDB are your initials.
That makes sense. And at this point in the game, you could have not heard Harry Dubois. So this could be your first discovery. You know, you folks should be glad that I went to see Everart before I saw this, because otherwise you would be stuck with me coming up with really stupid ideas for what HDB could stand for. Like, hippopotamus pantry baby. Hot damn boy, that's a good one, Victor Ghost. And I can say that because I can swear in this game. Hot dog boy. Yours all make much more sense. Hellish dormant beast. All right. And this, okay, if you've watched me play Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, you know where this is going. Please continue giving me these options. Anyone who's watching on YouTube, in the comments, please put what HDB could mean to you. Please try to keep it relatively clean. All right, we've got Hunky Dory Bowie. Is Bowie or Bowie? Which one are you going with? Probably Bowie. His dark materials. HDB Kumba, thanks, Chrono. Oh, hot displaced person. Hey, don't barf. That's some good life advice. I say that to my cat a lot. Has done bad. Yeah, I think at this point we can say he has, in fact, done bad. Much to his shame. I would say dismay, but I think shame is a better word for it. Good job. See, this is good. This is good fun. We can still have the fun, but you don't have to. I'm not inflicting my terrible ideas on you as much, so it's all up to you folks. So this could be a piece of the puzzle that you could fit together. I wonder if you've seen this before, and then you get called Harry Dubois by Everard if there's a flag that has you reflect. Oh, that must be what these initials I saw stood for. We'll see if there's a flag here that reacts to the fact that Everard has called me by that name.
Harry Dubois, HDB.
I wonder if that flag is there specifically because of the Everard conversation. Heroic drinking bum. Yes, I do think he's in his own way heroic. He definitely drinks. He could be bum-like.
Still feels like there's something missing from that.
What is it, Inland Empire? What are you thinking? Okay. Let's look at these cases. We're going to read these cases. You ready? Buckle up. There's the Next World Mural. Oh my god. We're going to just go through these one at a time. I won't read them all out loud until we get there. The Next World Mural.
This one is relatively easy to reconstruct. Overnight on 1202, a graffito, nay, a mural, appears on an 8-story tenement overlooking central Jamrock. The building is a sparsely inhabited ghost tower, part of a failed real estate development called Grand Couronne.
Isn't that where, I think I have like a postcard from there. I'll double check that. Is there anywhere that actually uses graffito, the singular? Because we'll talk about graffiti, singular, plural, whatever. You could probably say graffitis, and Americans would be like, yes, that's fine. Plaisance talked about it? Okay. I just recognized the name and the story, and now I want to go look at my postcard. Marge Simpson says graffito. Marge Simpson does seem like somebody who would follow what the dictionary says the singular form of graffiti would be. I can respect that about her. I may not be a fan of The Simpsons, but I can respect that about Marge Simpson. Lisa was my favorite, and I thought she deserved a different story. Oh, man. But I also haven't watched The Simpsons since, like, the early 2000s. Basically, as soon as I could get out of watching it with my family, I stopped.
Cause of failure. Rent too high.
Hey! I could say things about that. Did you know that we're going through a housing crisis in Toronto and many other cities, many other parts of, at the very least, North America, potentially other parts of the world? It's bad, folks. It's real bad. The amount that rent has gone up in the 4 years since I moved to Toronto is insane. It is absolutely nutso. What the hell? Why are governments not doing something about this? That is a question with a complicated, multi-part answer. Oh God, LA. I'm sorry. Like Toronto has problems, but I think LA still leaves us in the dust. Um, yeah, housing as investment is a big problem. A big, big problem. Whether it's people investing in homes that then sit empty, or corporations investing in homes that then sit empty, or the Airbnb problem and things like that. It's just really gross. Yeah, actually, governments full of landlords is actually a big problem with Toronto as well, as I understand it. We did elect a new mayor, I think is the same term, that says that she's going to do something about it. But we'll see. Yeah, it's, as it turns out, it's just really, really shitty. It's so bad. It's so predatory. I had never thought about housing as a human right until a few years ago when I heard people talking about it. And I was like, whoa. I was like, wait, no, but, oh. Like, oh, okay, well, I can get behind healthcare for all. And I've been behind healthcare for all for years. And then somebody's like, well, what about housing for all? And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. So it's something that I haven't studied a whole lot about, but I've been trying to learn and listen a little bit more about that. Because, yeah, the system as it stands right now is real bad, and nobody should have to be homeless. Blanket statement. Nobody should have to be homeless. Nobody should have to die because things aren't available for them to live. If the resources for them to live exist in the world, which they do. I haven't really gotten to the point where I have it much more like sophisticated than that, but I'm there. That's where I am. Housing is an important part of healthcare. Yeah, no, it's true. And in fact, it is cheaper to put the unhoused in houses and watch costs go down than it is to leave them on the streets and have them go in for emergency health care when the inevitable happens and they have health issues. I believe Utah, or maybe specifically Salt Lake City, just housed all of their unhoused people and everything got better. And I'm like, what a crazy concept. You put a person in a home, you give them a place to sleep, and things get better. Especially because so many of the shelters that we have such profound issues on so many levels. Not least because I think a lot of times someone involved in the process of developing, designing, or running them kind of takes a punitive approach to them, as though people need to be punished for being unhoused, which is counterproductive at its most charitable. There are a lot of empty houses and empty apartments and empty condos that are unlived in that investment groups own. Yes, that is there. That is true. It's not just the US. I know Canada has problems with that as well. So yeah, I can swear on the stream. It's fucked up, folks. It's really bad. It's not good. Let's see what Disco Elysium has to say about it.
The mural is enormous.
Oh.
2 silhouettes, a man and a woman, are kissing. The text cut into their form reads,
Let me see.
True love is possible only in the next world. For new people, it is too late for us. Wreak havoc on the middle class.
Man. Be gay, do crimes. I don't know, man.
People call it that thing and that fucking thing. It's visible for miles. In 2 days, the station's complaints desk gets clogged with requests to remove the bummer.
The bummer?
You and your partner are assigned to the case.
Okay, so bummer, like, just to make sure. So what if somebody says like bummer to me, that means like a thing that makes you feel bad, like a downer. I don't know if that's what it means or if there's another word, like, or another definition, like basically, what does this mean in British slang? Is it different, folks? Thank you. Because I gotta know how to respond to this. Because I'm like, that's funny. That it's the bummer. It's this thing that just brings me down, man. Okay, so it's the same between the two. Okay, excellent. You cannot take for granted that your slang definitions are universal. It is good to check in. I'm not saying that message isn't a bummer by the definition that I know the word dumber or bummer. Did I say dumber? My goodness, words are hard. But I wanted to make sure that there wasn't something else going on here that I was missing. You gotta know what's going on with your rhetoric, folks. It's important. It's important. Okay. Why am I requested to remove it? I would think I would be investigating who did it, and I guess that's a thing people care about.
The graffito crew is easy to track down. Only the belles lettres have the literage of industrial paint to cover the surface. One of the graffito artists is rumored to be rich.
Ooh.
They take responsibility for the execution, but not the design. The ideologue of the next world mural, as the crew calls it, remains an unknown.
Canadian English is closer to American English, but there's things in it that are a bit different. And phrases that I knew because of my mother, but that all of the Americans that I grew up with for the majority of my life did not know. So that's fun. That was delightful because I didn't realize they were Canadianisms. I thought they were just my momisms until I moved to Canada and everyone says them. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Great fun. Okay, so there's a graffiti group. Belle Lettre have the literage of industrial paint. It's interesting that they have an artist rumored to be rich, and yet they are expressing the sentiments that they are expressing. Perhaps this person is trying to use their richness to support and fund change in some capacity. All right. Wait, do I ever find out who came up with it or read on? I think I'm going to do that, even if that means skipping ahead. Sorry, I want to know.
The case files do not show you finding the author of the design.
That's very formal damage ledger description. Thank you. Okay, read on.
The crew agrees to clean up after themselves. However, your partner, JV, is against the removal, citing public support for conservation. This leads to a debate in Precinct 41, which then spreads to the streets of Jamrock, ending in a rare plebiscite organized by you and the rest of Row 3.
Oh, this is interesting. I wonder, JV, that was, I believe, one of the guys that was on the call. I don't remember what his actual name is, but I'm pretty sure that he was on that call that we had. Public support for conservation, even if the public was demanding that it get taken down. That's interesting. Plebiscite. I don't know what that means. I mean, I assume that plebe, like, that has to do with, like, the public people. So, on Row 3? I wonder who or what Row 3 is. Like, is that, like, a particular group of cops based on where they sit? I have no idea. So that's interesting. And it's fascinating that this is, like, a vote of some sort, then, organized, that Ocelot takes part in the organization of that vote. Yeah, no, rows haven't been mentioned. This is not me asking you folks. This is me speculating and thinking out loud. Yes, if I'm asking for stuff, I will wear this very fashionable piece of fashion. Didn't we just determine what stat? Do I guess stat boost? What stats does the chat hat convey? Skill boost, or skill diminish. I don't know. These are the things I wonder about as I build my Disco Elysium character sheet. But it's encyclopedia, definitely. You get a plus to encyclopedia, but you get a negative to something. Whatever like self-sufficiency is, maybe. I don't know what self-sufficiency is. I don't have my skills memorized. Oh man. Thanks, Chrono. Yes, we'll just take points away from authority just by default. Screw you, authority. You can't tell me what to do. Anyway. But it is interesting that he took part in this organization. I mean, I assume that he didn't take the lead, even though it's his partner who is against the removal. I assume his partner takes the lead and he follows, because it's very hard to imagine Ocelot getting really invested in something like this.
The 9,000 people subjected to the Mural's message, all of Lakeside, Central Jamrock, and Villa Lobos, plus half of the eminent domain, participate in the vote. Although the case begins with what appears to be a lot of rambling on the streets as to how juvenile and stupid the Mural is, given a choice between two options.
Villa Lobos. I'm sorry, I got distracted by that. Anyway. Alright, Central Jamrock. A few other places. I feel like I've heard them talk about eminent domain before. I mean, judging by the name, like, I'm like, is that kind of where the folks who are ruling over us set up their little government? I don't know. Let's see. I love the case begins with people complaining about it. I honestly think that people would vote for the Mural. Now, this is one of those fun little things where, like, on a meta level, I'm a little puzzled about how all this fits together. Because, like, this is not a question to you. I'm sorry, I got distracted by the power of French cowboys. Thank you, chat. I can always count on you. It is unclear to me at this point. Like, I would normally naturally assume that I am picking what Ocelot's answer is. But for all I know, whatever I pick Ocelot's answer to be, or whatever I pick this answer to be, is going to influence what it turns out actually happened. Which is weird. You know? It's like one of the things that I've been trying to figure out as I pick dialogue answers for him, including and especially things that kind of talk about his, like, what he's done in the past and that sort of thing. Like, you retroactively determine what had happened in the past based on the answers you give now. And, like, how does that fit into the world? Does it fit into the world? Is it just kind of one of the fun things about game mechanics and don't think too hard about it, Lauren? I don't know. But I'm gonna. If there's one thing you can count on me to do, it is think too hard about everything. Except the things you want me to overthink, and then I don't, and everyone gets frustrated. That happens just often enough to keep you on your toes. I'm going to go with keep the Mural. It is right. Because I think it seems as though public sentiment actually probably more leans towards it. At least according to the partner, and I feel like we should put some faith in the partner for better or for worse, or at least Ocelot would be like, yes, sure, we'll go with what my partner says. And as far as, like, the sentiment of hopelessness and despair about, like, it's too late for us to feel love, I feel like that is a sentiment that Mr. Ocelot could get behind. I think that he considers himself fundamentally unlovable as a result of the life experiences he won't let himself think too hard about. So we're going to go with that and say that this is inspiring in a way, but also really depressed and hopeless in a way. And I feel like Ocelot would be like, yeah, it's too late for us. We will never be loved.
A staggering 78% of voters choose to keep it. Turns out the opposition were a loud minority. And that love truly is possible in the next world for new people. And it is too late for us.
Yeah, the opposition being a loud minority actually feels pretty true to my experience with people and things. Like, you'll have basically the Karens calling and complaining about a thing, but then like the majority of people actually like it. So you have to eventually realize, like, just because the Karens are making a lot of noise doesn't mean that they actually reflect the majority opinion. So let us investigate with a vote, shall we? Okay, so either all that remains is to wreak havoc on the middle class, or the middle class are not to be blamed, it's human nature, or I like it, but can't we wreak havoc on other nations instead? Or I must have voted and possibly even lobbied to remove the thing, because I don't believe in that rubbish one bit. Now this is probably going to give me a morale boost, so maybe I should have done this after I open the clipboard. Too late now. I believe at this point, if I am going to roleplay Ocelot, what is the word that they use? Moralist. Yes, moralist. That is the word. Not centrist. Moralist, right? Is that the right? Is that... I wish I had a functional brain. Do you know how frustrating it is that I don't remember things in my own life? My 73-year-old father remembers things in my life better than I do. People on the internet who have never met me in person have to help me keep track of things that I've done and said in the previous week. It really sucks. A lot, actually. And I thought it was getting better, and then it seems like it's getting worse again. I really don't like it. Anyway, that's beside the point. You didn't come here to listen to me cry about my lack of memory. I used to have a photographic memory, or a semi-photographic memory is the thing. It hasn't always been like this. I used to have a phenomenal memory. And maybe I just filled it all up and now I can't take anymore. I need to buy an additional hard drive for my brain for storage. Maybe I'll be able to focus on things well enough to actually piece things together at least. Even if I can't retain it, that would be something. Somebody left a comment on a stream today and I was just like, I don't understand what any of these words mean. I'm sorry. Reading comprehension used to be one of my strengths. What happened? Something happened, clearly. Perhaps it's all the trauma. Anyway, I should probably take the moralist option, even though I don't need that recovery. All right. Because, like, this, I suppose, is probably the communist answer. This sounds like the, like, fascist warfaring answer. This is the military fighty fight McFighterson answer. And then this is, like, cynically not participating. I don't know if we have a name for that or not. All right, let us pick the moralist answer, which I don't care. This is not one that I have a, like... I would say it's not that it is human nature, it is how people have been raised to think that reality works. If that makes sense. And so it's not necessarily people's fault for believing in the reality they have been raised with and actively protected from, like, exposure to its flaws. Like, if you have no reason to doubt the world follows the rules you're told exists, then you're just going to kind of keep going that way. Like, I I don't think anyone spontaneously is like, actually, this is bullshit. I think there has to be some kind of an inciting incident, whether it's something in their own life, something they witness in someone else's life, a piece of media they consume, an argument they overhear, history that they read, whatever the case may be. I don't think you spontaneously question things. I think there has to be something that is a tipping point. But I think that means that folks creating things should keep in mind that what they make could become that first exposure to people who've never had reason to question their reality, and may set off a chain of events that leads them to stepping outside of a harmful view of reality, and perhaps participating in deconstructing its harms and trying to build a better way. I say this as someone who was raised in, like, a middle class to upper middle class city that is very conservative, Southern Baptist. I've got mine. Like, which was not necessarily my house, like my home, or my family that had that exact experience. Obviously, we were not Baptist. My father is an atheist Jew. That is a different mentality. But that was the environment that I grew up in. And I had no idea, absolutely none, bye blues, no idea that my experience of the world was not representative of all experiences of the world. And what I was told about how the world worked was not, in fact, how the world worked. So I'm grateful for some of the traumatic experiences that I had in my late teenagerdom that were horrifyingly destructive on a personal level, but cracked me open a little bit to see a larger world outside of my own. And so while I may wish that the bad things that happened to me didn't happen to me because they were really bad, at the same time, I don't know who I would have been otherwise, and I don't know that I would have liked that person, So, silver lining in trauma, sometimes the process of dealing with the aftermath could result in you becoming a better person, I guess. I don't know. I had an abusive ex-boyfriend who wanted to punish me for being from a comfortable background, unlike him. And as horrible as he was, I did wind up learning a bit more about how other experiences in this world happen. Interesting stuff. So, yeah, there's that. And then I moved away from home a little bit, went to university, and had friends from different backgrounds, and that really helped me understand a place of privilege that I had grown up in, and also how walled off our worldview was. But at least I can say that I threw away my father's overt racism when I was younger than that. So there's that. Had I completely stepped away from it? No. But I had made steps, so good for me. Yeah. Little Lauren meant well, and she had a great deal of empathy, but she did not know a lot. So knowing has been an improvement in my quality of personhood. Anyway, that's a tangent. Let's go ahead and pick this answer because I feel like this is the one we should be picking right now.
Did anyone ask you what you believe in, man with the smelly toilet ledger? What do you want to tackle next? Or are we done?
Oh, did that not count as the incrementalist philosophy? Okay, all right. Interesting. Let's look at the unsolvable case. You can't have named that from the beginning. That's just setting yourself up for failure, man. Don't be such a pessimist. Jeez.
A.K.A. Leslie and Burke. A.K.A. The public indecency drunk and the property damage drunk is a cursed case. It has been passed from unsuspecting officer to unsuspecting officer for 10 years. On January 29, the unsolvable case made its way to you. Why you accepted it, it is unclear. Every officer, and indeed most civilians in general, know it's unsolvable.
This is complicated. There's a cursed case for 10 years. Trying to figure out who got drunk and wrecked stuff. Okay, I'm not a big fan of public indecency, but I gotta say property damage, my favorite thing in video games. This is definitely something that perhaps one could say Ocelot has emulated in recent days. I imagine there's been some public indecency, and certainly he has left some property damage behind him. It's interesting that he says January 29 instead of 29th. I don't know. I guess the other one, because it was 12/2, I guess that must be February 12th, because day, month, flipped. So how is it that civilians know that there's this unsolvable case? How do civilians know what the cops are up to? I mean, I guess if it's like a community with like a sense of place, that would be known. I don't know.
Leslie will always take his pants off when he's drunk. Burke will always trash everything. It's just what they do. It is their nature. You cannot change the nature of a man. And you can't lock them away because public indecency and small-scale property damage are not punishable by incarceration.
Oh, are these Planescape Torment characters? That's funny. Okay, well, I took my pants off to jump between buildings. And I did trash everything. So I'm pretty sure at this point that Leslie and Burke would be very proud of what Ocelot has become. Oh, okay. Just what can change the nature of a man? Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure that's intentional given this game's writing ties. That's neat. That's a nice nod. It would have gone completely over my head if that was any sort of connection to anything else. But for those who know, you get to be like, cool. Wait, Bridge to Terabithia? I mean, Leslie, is Burke her last name? Is that why Leslie Burke means something to me? Because I was like, I've seen that name before. That can't be actually intentionally a Bridge to Terabithia reference, because this doesn't really have anything to do with Bridge to Terabithia at all. That I know Bridge to Terabithia. I may never have played Planescape Torment, but I have read Bridge to Terabithia a number of times. Never saw the movie. I wanted to. I've heard it's not terrible, and I'd like to see kind of the sense of wonder they managed to capture with it, if they do. I loved that book. It was devastating to young Lauren, but I loved it. All right. So you have these two petty criminals you can't do anything about. They're just going to be pantsless and trashing things like a character played by Lauren.
The only way for Leslie to stop flashing his genitals to bypassers and for Burke to stop dismantling signage and rear-view mirrors would be for them to stop drinking alcohol, which, in their 40s or 50s, it's hard to tell because of their distorted features, is a medical improbability on par with you ceasing to produce the expression.
Okay, so they're using the British definition of pants here and not the American definition of pants. Ocelot took off his trousers to leap between buildings. He did not take off his pants. Those stayed on. Right. That would be where the indecency comes in. You can run around in your underwear and it's unsightly, but I don't think illegal. But the moment that you remove your undergarments is when the trouble starts. But you probably shouldn't run around in your undergarments. Just, people generally don't want to see that. Unless it's like Pride or something like that, where like running around in your panties is like a thing to do, like knock yourself out. generally speaking, no. All right, couldn't we just keep them off the streets, provide them with an alternative place to go or what to do? Chrono has had a stupid thought. Oh no. All right, Chrono, let us hear it.
You would think that, but you're wrong. Where's the fun in exposing your genitals or breaking stuff in your own home? No, Leslie and Burke are on the corner of Main Street and Perdition, because that's where the action is.
Isn't perdition a noun that has a definition, not just a street? Pretty sure it is. But I don't know what it means. It feels old-fashioned. Perdition means hell. Okay. Damnation. Ah! Yes. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, if cowboy westerny, or at least something kind of old-fashionedy. You know? Like barn revivals and stuff like that. Meh. There's some plays and stuff. All right. Because there's... Is it a play or a movie or maybe both called Road to Perdition, I think? But I don't think directly familiar with it. Unless it's the one about the faith healer in the tent revivals, but I don't think it is, so. It's about Irish gangsters. It's dad. That's a very dad movie. My dad really likes movies about gangsters and mobs and things like that. He really liked The Sopranos. He's the reason why I know that I don't want to watch a movie if it's got people's fingers getting cut off. And it turns out I really don't like harm to hands and fingers. Anyway. Yeah, so if somebody's finger's gonna get cut off in this game, like, you have my permission to be like, content warning, Lauren. There's something that you're not gonna like that's about to happen. So. Yes. That is such a dad movie thing. It's either about people who solve crimes or people who commit crimes. And my dad's particularly, he prefers movies about people who commit crimes. What is it about dads and crime movies? Is that a universal dad experience? I'm really curious. Does anybody else want to weigh in about your dad and crime movies? I'm sorry. I'm really not staying on task at all. Yeah, my dad liked that one too. All right.
Can you keep yourself off the streets?
Logic. That was uncalled for. Oh, I think spy movies, well, if we're talking like James Bond, then that's stopping people from doing crime. If it's not a James Bond style spy movie, then crime might not be. Are you all dads now too? Have we become dad television? I'm sorry. The daddening, it's happening. You're all dads now. You're a dad, and you're a dad, and you're a dad, and you're a dad. Not daddy, though. That's different. Oh, man. Although I think my dad's favorite movie for a while, other than the obligatory Godfather, he also really, really liked Groundhog Day. We watched it so many times. Disco Elysium, a detective RPG for cool dads. Damn straight, May. We are all dads tonight. Alright. Anyway. We're really cool. We're the coolest, folks. Aren't you glad you're here? Aren't you glad you... Yes, Harry and Kim are our cool dads. Aren't you glad you tune into this stream?
Threatening fines, dragging them to the station, locking them up in the hellholes they live in, locking them up in the station, hypnotherapy, even trying to get the local gang of Zemyaki to take them out. The Zemyaki gave them ethanol, so Bert and Leslie would expose and rampage even harder. You tried it all, and still the complaints wouldn't stop, as they hadn't stopped for 10 years.
Well, there's probably trauma involved. I think that's safe to say.
It's plain to see from the files that you, Satellite Officer JV, and Special Consultant TH had more important cases to attend to. You uncover cross-reference to several ongoing investigations, each brought to a standstill every time you drive down Main Street. Because there they are, on the corner of Perdition. And what is Leslie doing?
Pop quiz! Don't tell me. Don't tell me. No, so Leslie and Burke are in that order. And I'm pretty sure that Leslie was the one who took his pants off and Burke was property damage, because I was like, that is bad and I don't get behind it. But property damage. I don't condone property damage in real life. Although I do think that a human life is worth more than property, and that is apparently a contentious opinion among some people. But in video games, I'm gonna wreck some shit. If you give me a roll button, there are a few things more satisfying than diving through the furniture in Dark Souls. Or a sword. Just smash the pottery, obviously. That's a Zelda staple. I really like property damage and things. It's very stressful for me when I cannot destroy what looks like it should be destroyable property. Anyway, Leslie and I are not on the same page. So we're going to go with, I'm pretty sure, pop quiz, public indecency.
Good. You're learning. If the files are to be trusted, that's all there is to it. That and Burke breaking things, and the fact that they're both drunk. But then again, so are you. The case becomes considerably less comic one day when Burke takes a swing at your ledger.
The fact that they're both drunk, but then again, so are you. By the way, reminder. So apparently, yeah, I got a gold star for remembering things. Thank you, game. I feel like I deserved that. Yeah, well, like, trashing campaign posters and, like, burning people's crazy pamphlets, like, does that even count as property damage? That's more like world improvement. That's fine. But maybe you shouldn't go smashing people's, like, cars or bicycles or windows or pottery or furniture in real life. Alas. Alas. Oh, well, good for your friend, but I'm sorry to hear they got in trouble for it. All right, so this just got serious. And it's funny because, like, we're, like, joking about this. Haha, it's funny, but it's actually not. And there is probably a way to help these people, but it would probably be complicated and might require advances in psychology and brain treatments that have perhaps not been discovered yet in the world of Disco Elysium.
He must have it confused with the property he likes to damage. But the joke's on him. The officer is also drunk. Way more drunk than Burke there. And let's be fair, you also have party eyes. You slam the hardened plastic board in his face, then proceed to beat him unconscious with it.
Okay, I noticed that it said something about basically you could use it, like, against somebody, but I didn't think about... All right, Ocelot. Yeah, I mean, as sad as it is, that is cop behavior, and in the real world, nothing's gonna happen to you. You're not gonna get disciplined. You hit a public nuisance until he stopped moving. Who cares? You're a cop. You've got qualified immunity? You're fine. You could beat him until he stopped breathing and probably face no consequences. It's a problem. It's a problem. So the party eyes are indicating that not only are you drunk, but you're also high on something. Probably a very dangerous combination, hence your violence. Perhaps you shouldn't do that.
In the process, the ledger sustains damage. The compartment within, reserved for permeable documents, is jammed shut. You stop your assault on the now unconscious Burke to open it, but are unable to do so. The officer began to cry, reports Leslie, who, at this point, is tending to Burke.
Okay, I don't know if it's because you've got something in there that you want to be able to access, that you've lost control of your emotions and they're just kind of spilling out. That you're worried you're getting in trouble because you broke something. Not crying, of course, because you were beating a man half to death. At least not directly. Like crying because you broke a piece of plastic. Yeah.
He came at us, and at us. I think he was trying to kill Burko. While trying to kill Burko, you slowly come around. The permeables compartment is open. You've smashed it open on poor Burko's kneecaps. The good news is, Burke can't walk anymore.
Okay. You have the option when you're in control of Ocelot to choose not to take the violent actions. And something that I have wondered, that I voiced earlier in the stream, is do the choices that I take now retroactively shape the history of who my character was? No. It may be that you pick choices that define specific things that happened in the past by answering a question, but the options that you are provided with, no matter how heinous, are all compatible with your character's past and who he has been. Because I did not get to answer anything to shape this. Like with the mural, as you've said, it's possible that I shaped that by picking an answer. There was no answer here. There is nothing that I have done that has made it so that my character is someone who would bash someone in the kneecaps until he couldn't walk anymore. For all that Ocelot is a flawed character and I have picked occasional clown shoes answers, I feel fairly confident that I have picked exactly 0 answers that would be in character directly with busting a man's kneecaps so he can no longer walk. That is not the character that I have shaped. That is the history of this character under the influence of drugs. Those are actions he has taken in the past through absolutely no influence of my own. It is possible that I am incorrect and that somehow something that I did or said indicated this, and that is why the text says this. But I don't think so. I think this is written. I don't think you get to influence what this story says. I think this story is predetermined. And that is very interesting to know, because I am controlling Ocelot against his darkest nature. I am not shaping his personality. I am not shaping the person that he is. I am shaping the person he wants to be, or that I want him to be. He is a person who is capable of doing all of the actions that have popped up to and including pointing a gun at a child. He has the capacity to do all of those things. Is my goofy, self-destructive, self-loathing, awkward, tactless clown shoes Ocelot a person who would point a gun at a child? It doesn't matter. The man who would assault, an unarmed, really non-threatening person to such a degree that he is unconscious and then continue beating him until his legs are ruined. That's pretty severe. You can shoot someone in the leg quickly. Physically brutalizing someone, not even with a weapon, there are many times that you could pull back and stop. That is a very defining action. Does that make sense? So by determining without, like, beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is in Ocelot's history, yes, under the influence twice over, but still, this is in Ocelot's history, uncontestably. This happened. That puts into perspective all of the awful things I have chosen not to do. It is not that Ocelot is not a man who would do that. It is that under my control, Ocelot is a man who is trying to do better. That gives me some perspective for the characterization and the way that I am playing this character and what it means to play this character that I haven't had prior to this, because I haven't been sure exactly how much I'm defining. Now I know I'm not defining the past, not in that way. And I'm not creating a man who would never. I'm creating a man who chooses not to, which is still very valuable and important. A person can have done horrible things in the past and choose to do better every day, and they deserve credit for that, and that is still worth doing. I don't really go for the death penalty and the idea of people being beyond redemption, generally speaking. The people you've harmed don't ever have to choose to forgive you, but I think that you can still try to do better and be better. And you can do better. And it doesn't erase what you've done in the past, but you can reduce the harm in the world actively. And that, I think, is the best way that you can make up for what you've done in the past. Anyway.
Can't get out of his apartment. An invalid. With Burke to tend to, Leslie cuts back on the indecent exposure. Maybe he flashes his genitals to Burke. Who knows? But both drunks are off the street. The complaints stop. The unsolvable case is solved.
Is that how the department sees it? The precinct?
Which is also why the officer responsible narrowly escapes a disciplinary hearing. The end. Do you want to read another one?
I don't know that I would say necessarily it's an admirable journey, but I think that it is a worthy journey, regardless of where you're coming from or what your empathy is, to try to do the best you can. I've been thinking a lot about empathy and people who have it and people who don't have it, and what you can and can't expect from them. Been doing some reading on that. I know some people who I think have a shortage of empathy, and it's good to be able to calibrate my expectations realistically. Anyway, apparently there was no disciplinary hearing for this man who permanently destroyed another person's ability to function and live on his own and walk because he dared to touch a policeman's property. Not unrealistic. Not unbelievable. That's fucked up. That does make me look at Ocelot a little differently, knowing that he's done that. He is a very interesting character. I'm going to do my best to keep him on the straight and narrow. Should we keep going? Or should we stop and try to pry open that container? Now, at least now we know why it takes points to be able to open it. Ugh. Do I read another one? Yeah, I think we're going to pry it open.
Not much has changed in the meanwhile. A bunch of sodden papers still sags from the clipboard.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna save. Because I gotta, obviously. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, let's do it.
It's the letter you found in the trash. A cabbage of papers hanging from the board, with the permeables drawer inside. It's barely held together by a clip. then made complete by the faint smell of urinal cleaner.
Okay, that's horrifying. I'm sorry. I can't believe that that makes it easier for me to open it. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, but that's more fucked up, right? That's more fucked up. Right? Like, this is dark. This is dark humor. Like, the way it's written is like, haha, funny. But also, that's really fucked up. Cops, man. Alright. Let's do this thing. See what lurks within the clipboard.
The two sides of the board appear slightly misaligned, like a drawer that's come off its slides. If you bend the plastic on your knee slowly...
Oh my god. I liked it better when I thought that I had just maybe jammed it by being a fuck up. But I ruined somebody's life with this fucking clipboard. Like, Jesus Christ, can you imagine how much you would have to swing? How actively determined you would have to be to cause bodily harm to another person unrelentingly for how long in order to do that with a clipboard? Can you imagine that? Like, you hit somebody with something once and they stagger backwards. But, like, bludgeoning someone is one of the most personal and brutal things you can do physically. Like, Jesus. And, like, yeah, it's clearly under the influence of drugs, etc., but it is more disturbing than if he had drunkenly taken out his gun and shot the guy in the leg. Because that is a quick and thoughtless action rather than methodically beating someone with a blunt object for an extended period of time. Not like, you know, like half an hour, but more than just a split-second decision. They're both fucked up, don't get me wrong. I would be uncomfortable with both of those. Tremendously so. But this is more viscerally disturbing. Don't do drugs, kids. Like, if you want to do pot, just, like, don't drive and make smart decisions and realize that you are in an altered state. If you're going to drink, don't drive and be smart and remember that you're in an altered state. And don't mix the two, for crying out loud. I'm including both of them in the same category as each other. They do count as drugs. They should be taken seriously. Don't fucking drive. Either stoned or drunk. Don't do it. I don't care what your reason is. Don't do it. But don't do anything harder, folks, please. There are other solutions for your problem out there that will do less damage to you and potentially the people around you.
The slides snap back into place. It should be possible to just, you know.
The hesitation, interfacing doesn't want to finish that thought. There is definitely a reason not to open this. Because my three options here are to slide the drawer open, wait, somehow I don't want to, or fuck no, put the ledger away. Yeah. I'm gonna open it. Let us see what... I mean, I assume I'm gonna take psychic damage for this. Hopefully not physical damage, but psychic damage. Let's see, what are you so afraid of, Harry? You gotta use his real name. if you're talking to him like that. The cadence of it is right, you know.
Without resistance or sound, the two panels move against each other. The compartment is now open.
Only have one option. What's inside? I can't imagine what another option would be, but there has to be some circumstance in which there is another option, or else this would just automatically go to the next screen. Probably, unless they really want to reinforce how hesitant Ocelot is to do this by making you choose again and again, even when there is no choice. Let's see. What's inside?
2 ticket stubs and a handmade postcard.
All right. These sound like they're personal items. I have to point out that one of the options here is fucking kill yourself, you asshole. No punctuation, at least no comma. That, I think, like, I don't think that most players will choose that option, but its presence there is powerful because it indicates what thoughts are provoked in Ocelot when he sees these things. That the moment he sees these things, self-loathing, suicidal ideation pops up. So yeah, I mean, there's a general content warning for Disco Elysium. We are digging into potentially something related to what might have triggered him to try to drink himself to death in the first place. So be careful, folks. If you have to be cautious with yourself, nobody will judge you for it. If you have to step out, if you're on our Discord, just like post in stream chat, like, I'm stepping out, let me know when it's safe, and one of the mods will let you know that it's safe. So yeah. Yeah, no, I do think that line is mostly for meta purposes. Somebody will probably choose it, but I'm not going to. All right. So I'm giving folks that moment to step aside if they want to. I assume you're here because you know what we're getting into, but in case you need to step away, I wholeheartedly respect this. And like I said, there are some subject matter, like there are some topics that I will request a content warning from the mods, and I will make different choices around. So yeah. All right. Let's take a look at the ticket stubs.
2 octopuses are smiling, reaching their tentacles toward each other in the colored pencil drawings. The tickets permit access to the zoo in Revachol East. The aquarium costs extra. These let you go there too.
So sweet and normal, going to the zoo and the aquarium. 2 people. All right, are you ready to take psychic damage, folks? Ocelot, I'm sorry, but we do have to confront this. We have to get through it to get to the other side, one way or another. Let us pick up the card. Proceed.
Thin wax paper has been glued to a piece of cardboard. Sounds like leaves rustling when you pick it up. You see violet flowers, floral patterns, patches of glue.
Someone glued the wax paper to cover up the things that they've done. This sounds like something that a child would have made. That doesn't necessarily mean that a child did make it, but it sounds like that to me, and this could get really sad really fast. But it could also just be like a lovely sweet thing that somebody made. Let us smell it first.
It smells of chewing gum, apricot flavored.
Huh. That's an interesting character defining moment.
A touch of cinnamon, the end of summer. You think the label says tutti frutti.
You know what kind of gum presumably she chews. All right, let us open it.
Familiar handwriting lines the inside of the card. Looped, round letters in a woman's hand.
Here goes.
A young woman in her 20s. There is care, effort, and a smile, you think. Although that is not something you can read from someone's handwriting.
No, but you can imagine it. That's why it's visual calculus. If it were in the handwriting itself, it would be a different thing. But this is your imagination based on what you know of the character.
Harry, it begins. You're already reading. I wanted to write you a letter so you can read it when you wake up. Maybe it will make you happy. Throw it away, please.
I can say it will make me happy, or I can keep reading. Volition knows that this is a bad idea, that we're going to take psychic damage for this. All right, but it will make me happy. Will it really?
A merciful wind blows in from the Bay of Revachol, dusting the ground at your feet and raising newspapers far away. You feel the card slipping into it.
So I can either say, what was that? Or I can throw the card in the wind, or I can hold on to it and read the card. I'm going to do that. That's interesting. That is interesting and strange. It gives you a moment to not.
Your hands shake, holding on to it. Every morning when I step out and you're asleep behind me, it says, I find a little piece of sadness in me. I carry it in my chest, down Voyager Road.
Did the background just get a little bit darker? Because I think it did. Oh, a lot of time has passed. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Every step I take, it grows. By the time I reach the fuel station, it has filled me entirely. I step onto the light rail and look back. Sparks fall from the bow collector. I know it will be like this until late afternoon, when I get off the 42 and walk back to you.
It's such a, such a quintessential love letter. I don't even know what a bow collector is. Let's keep reading. We're going to do this.
You. Every step I take will get lighter. It almost makes me run. Sometimes I do. I can't believe I met you. I can't believe the happiness I feel with you. You have a vast, vast soul, and I will always, always, always come back to it.
At this point, you're in it. You have no choice but to keep reading. It's a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. A vast soul. He's certainly a man capable of a great deal of imagination. If she is in her 20s when she writes this, it must be an old card. Because he is most certainly not in his 20s. And I wonder if this is something that he's kept with him and treasured from many, many years ago when they first got together, before things soured. That would be my expectation at this point.
Kisses, kisses, kisses. You feel the air sucked out of your lungs and the blood sucked out of your head. Everything around you gets dark. Small white dots appear.
They did give me warning.
You feel the ledger slip from your hand.
I guess maybe I should have read all the rest of those. Well, too late. Fall sideways. I did save, yes. What just happened? This is a title card, yes. A title screen with a talk option. Did I just die?
There is nothing.
No, but it would have given me a chance to load my save. This is the same reason why he shut down the first time, I suppose. Okay, so are we looping? Are we in a time loop? Don't tell me.
Again.
Nothing? Or just lie there passed out? Let's ask nothing.
Nothing said, brother. No treachery, just blackout.
Just lie there passed out.
Well, almost nothing. There is the ground below you, that's still there. And the small light that's on, fluttering, somewhere in the basal ganglia.
Who's that?
That's me. Blue eyes, that's me.
And who was that?
Who was what?
The letter?
He speaks of the sickening longing, the unwell emotion. Even in the darkness, he's grasping for it. Still trying to hold on to the great sorrows slipping in the water. Slimy.
Some part of my brain is still thinking, oh, but I just recently read about the ancient reptilian brain and the limbic system and how they're stacked on top and then there's the other layer and... I'm sorry. I almost loaded my save and I want to go through the rest of that and I assume I'm not going to get the chance to now. So that's fun. But I think I'm going to have to just accept that there's stuff that I didn't do. And we're just going to have a lack of knowledge. Yeah, that's the stuff. The great sorrows slipping in the water. I am going after that. No matter how desperately Ocelot doesn't want me to.
Here in the paleo-mammalian cortex, we call it the shadow. Because it's always there.
White morning. A thought. Was that the X something? Where is Voyager Road? So my name appears to be Harry, or I can just lie there motionless. I'm going to ask these questions and see if it lets me ask them all. Otherwise, that's fine. It will stop me when it stops me. I'm going to keep digging because I am a person who tends to always dig to the bottom of things, even when I don't want to know, and even when I'm falling apart. And at least in my hands, so is Ocelot.
Bloated corpse of the past resurfacing.
The X something, the... No, it was beautiful, or yes, that. No, it was beautiful.
Beautiful. Believe me, stupid ape. Its lack of beauty was not the problem.
Where is Voyager Road?
There is no Voyager Road. There are no roads, no houses, no lights in the windows. It's all on pause.
So my name appears to be Harry.
Your name is fuck all.
I wonder if you've done this before you go talk to Everard. If he hurts you less when he says your name because you've already come to terms with it. Probably not. Ocelot is not a man who has come to terms with things. I would say he's kind of defined by not. Yes, the letter says Harry, but if I had seen the letter before I met Everard and he called me by name, I don't know, I would have immunized myself against the pain of my name being said by him. Probably not.
It certainly ain't Harry.
Then what is it?
Your name is passed out on the ground, dragged around by one of the other evil apes. They're taking you somewhere.
Evil apes. Kim. Just lie there motionless. That's all I can do at this point.
You think they would let you? Until you disintegrate into biomolecules? No. Someone is breathing on your face now, inspecting your pupils, stupid idiot.
So I can either say I'm not coming back, or what is that? It's cold. I'm gonna go with it's cold.
Yes, they're pouring something on you. It's in you. And it's...
Water.
It's delicious.
Kim wouldn't let any harm come to me. Unless he loses control of my body.
Glowing lights on a dashboard emerge out of nothingness.
Oh, Kim. And here, slowly, the black and white slowly resolves into color. Where am I?
In the upholstered cabin of Lieutenant Kitsuragi's motor carriage, seated in the driver's basket. The air is thick with leatherworks and heavy fuel oil. Cold water runs down your chin.
Wow.
Drink. Water.
The lieutenant is extending a small canister to your mouth. Given that my brain thought this is delicious, I'm going to go ahead and drink. Instead of saying, no, I don't want to.
The water is cold, silvery, the stuff of life itself, as it pours down your parched throat. The pounding in your head recedes. The darkness parts.
That's healing. Chrono, thank you for that King's Quest reference. I appreciate it. Yes, everybody hydrate. I do not have water on me, but you should hydrate. It is very important to keep your body hydrated. Did you know that the majority of your body is made of water? You need to replenish that. Silly Kim, you can't heal me. I have only one health. So there is a binary state. I am either dead or I am alive. I do not have intermediate points.
Drink. You haven't drunk water in 2 days. Did you know the human body is not made to survive on alcohol alone? You need a secondary form of hydration.
That is I think he's being a little bit playful to lighten it a little bit. So I will drink.
With greedy gulps, you down half a liter of cold water. Some of it spills on the driver's seat. The lieutenant pays no heed to it.
So as much as he's really dedicated to his car, he is dedicated to the Force more. I guess you could have been very, very low on health and this would recover.
What happened?
I should ask you the same. Or I can say, I came in contact with the burnt out ruins of the past, Lieutenant. Or, I was dehydrated, it won't happen again. Or, fuck it, start climbing out of the motor car. I'm going to say I should ask you the same.
You were reading your paperwork. Then you passed out. I carried you to my kinema to take you to a hospital. Then you came to.
That makes sense. How long was I out?
10 minutes, maybe.
Oh, that's not too bad. It's nice that they let me know that the rest of these are concluding. I came in contact with the burnt-out ruins of the past, Lieutenant. You cannot believe that I would give any other answer beside that one, right? Like, that is the only choice. It just is. I'm sorry. I am what I am, and I am that.
That does sometimes happen.
He hands you the remains of your ledger. Okay, so I still have it and could read those cases. That's good to know.
He replies with such understanding, it's as if the burnt-out ruins of the past were an occupational hazard. Athlete's foot for cops.
To some degree, it may very well be. I mean, there is a great deal of trauma to be had if you are investigating murders and things like that. Like, that is going to fuck you up. Yes, ledger of failure and hatred. That is correct. That is how it was described. It is an effective name. I mean, realistically, a lot of what cops do is not actually solving crimes. But if it were, and they did, that would be at least an occupational hazard that would do emotional damage. But as it is, I mean, I'm sure that it is for some, but content moderation for social media sites and reviewing content before it goes into AI and seeing the worst of humanity come through that way is more traumatic, I think, than your average cop driving around giving people speeding tickets and bullying civilians. So.
You dropped these. Are you okay to proceed?
I can either say, let's solve this case, or just nod. I'm gonna try. This is unrealistic. Saying let's solve this case after this is unrealistic. I want to choose it, but I don't think I can. I'm sorry. I don't think I can. I think I'm gonna have to just nod. Fortunately, Kim understands meaningful silences.
Good.
I gained experience.
The Ledger of Failure and Hatred is a special item that can be used both as an interactable and a tool equipped in your held slot for skill bonuses.
Oh.
Find it under the Tools tab in your inventory.
All right. Interesting. I wonder if that means that I can use it on certain situations as well. Okay, well. Well, that was a... eventful? Yeah. Cul-de-sac. I love this! It gives you Inland Empire and empathy. Like, and minus authority. This is like, I cannot help but be like, do I, like, does this get customized for each player's playthrough to be what makes the most sense for the way you've been playing the character? Probably not. But if I were to say, how would I put together an item that represents Lauren? It would have Inland Empire and empathy. Minus authority. You can't tell me what to do, and I have a really hard time being assertive telling people what to do too. I don't like that. So I like that. All right, let's see. It does look neat and tidy. It does look like it has been cleaned up. This is the same ledger you found in the trash, only worse somehow. It makes you think about the letter, about the woman's handwriting, about not wanting to get out of bed in the morning. It makes you not want to be a cop. It makes you remember what it is to be human. It makes you imagine and get lost and tangled in the possibilities. Kim had it for a whole 10 minutes. Of course it's tidy now. Fair. Oh man. Well, that's good. I'm glad it no longer is disgusting and like death. I feel like I should just like carry it around all the time so I'm always nicer. And always dreaminger. Because have you noticed I've made my peace with Inland Empire once I admitted why I had problems with Inland Empire? Then now I no longer get mad and complain about it all the time. It's almost like I had to like unlock a dialogue option that then like, yeah, Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man is me and Inland Empire. Kind of, sort of, maybe a little. Oh, all right. Yes, Inland Empire and Lauren. Not even a beneficial agreement. It's more that I have recognized that I am Inland Empire and Inland Empire is me. And we're no longer competing for the Inland Empirehood. Empiredom. Oh man, instead we are doubling up the Inland Empire. Okay. What do I have that makes me less authority? Is it my necklace? No. Oh, my glasses. Okay, I'm very cool. I'm pretty good actually with some of these. This one I could do. I need to change my pants. My trousers, excuse me. Trousers, not the same as pants. And this writing is British, so. Alright, well, now we know once upon a time, Ocelot was in love with somebody who loved him very much. Who considered him the center of her world. Who considered herself lucky to know him. Who talked about his vast soul. And the loss of her, because of the way that it said she will always, always, always come back to him, I'm pretty sure that she left him. And I can understand why. I can imagine a number of reasons why. But I suspect that that's supposed to be a particularly painful, and one might say, ironic tension right there. So that is the thing, that is the thing he cannot tolerate. That is the thing he needs to build tolerance of in order to be able to function as a person. I should probably read the rest of his cases. I really should. There's other things I should do. I'm just pacing. I'm just thinking. Oh, hold on. Journal. Who put the clothes in the trash? The victim's clothes were in the trash container out back, neatly folded. Who could have put them there and why? Only the whirling staff was supposed to have the key. See, we're on the same page, me and Ocelot. So I can ask Kuno if he knows anything about the victim's clothes in the trash. Or I can ask Garta if he knows how the victim's clothes got in the trash. I'll start with Garta. Yeah, I feel like when you are young and have been hurt less by the world and have lost less, it is easier to say, yes, this is love forever. This will last forever. This will never end. And then I guess it gets harder the older you get and the more burned you are, for example, by that sort of thing. I don't know. You know, I'm my age and divorced, and the idea of being that vulnerable and actually putting faith that a relationship might last, for some definition of last, I don't know. Something I wanted to do but might have forgotten. What did I want to do? I was gonna potentially talk to this fellow right here. I need to talk on the car. I need to call in and see what's up. It's not yet late enough for me to go talk to the dude in the apartments. And then... Yes, he's Tommy the man. There's also this fellow over here who isn't here all day either. I don't think I've talked to him yet. I don't know if he's a conversation or not. But I suppose I was by Tommy. We can talk to Tommy. See what's up with Tommy. I'm kind of concerned. Well, Ocelot is none the worse for wear. Let's see. What am I wearing? I don't think I need my interfacing gloves. Maybe I'll take those off. Do I have other gloves? That's drugs. That's half-light. I don't remember what half-light is, but let's equip half-light. Which one is half-light? Threatening people. But that's also knowing if you're being threatened. Your fight or flight response. I don't know, though. I don't know that I want that. I don't know that I need that. Hold on. Yeah, I think we're gonna take those off. I don't think I want half light. Oh. Oh, wait. I was gonna look at, yeah, this Grand Coral. An ill-advised residential area overlooking the Jamrock Quarter. 13-story buildings. Yes, that is that. Yeah, I'll probably put the garden gloves on, but I think they're silly. They're kind of silly. It's a shame. I really like fingerless gloves. So like, be super cool, but I don't want those. No. No, we're gonna put this jacket back on. And I can put this in my hand. And now my authority is, I can be not very intimidating, but also not very assertive. But also I don't usually want to do what authority tells me to do. So undermining authority is maybe not so bad. On the other hand, my inland empire is I'm a little bit nervous about that, but it doesn't usually, like, Inland Empire doesn't usually take charge. It just starts screaming madness in the background and you're like, there. And then it also raised my empathy. So now my empathy is higher, and I think that's good. I think I like that. Yeah, we'll do that. I'll investigate people holding on to this. Let us save. Because we did that. I really thought I'd gotten him killed. I was very concerned. It's like, are you not supposed to read this? They give you numerous options to not do it and to stop once you've started. And that's what made me think maybe like this is actually like a, you can't survive this. Turn back, turn back. But it didn't feel like the title card, the title screen was different than what we'd seen before. And I think with the limbic system, not the limbic system, the ancient reptilian brain said the things were just like a little bit different. So it's like, well, just click on it and see. You know, it is a good thing Kim was there. Who knows what would have happened if I had passed out without Kim present? If I had read that in my room at night, all alone, I might have died. Who knows? But Kim took care of him. I was wondering why I was in the car, especially because if I had done that like inside a building or something like that, be like, oh well, maybe you're safe. But it makes sense if he thinks he's going to take you to the hospital, and then you come to. I don't know. I wonder if you can get yourself killed that way. Wouldn't be surprised. Well, let's talk to Tommy Lum, if I remember correctly. Tommy the man. See how this goes. And Kim is not an evil ape. He is a flawed person, but he is not an evil ape. And I am especially, like, relatively safe with him because I am on the force and he sympathizes and understands. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Kuno would have thrown rocks at me. No, that's true. That's fair. All right, let's talk to this man, shall we? Hopefully this doesn't go terribly. I really, really liked him. And I don't want to get him in trouble for smuggling if he smuggles. Let's see what he has to say.
Still here. Stuck in this damn jam, my man. What's up?
He greets you with a smile. Care to spare some change for a working stiff? It just feels really gross to be like asking people for bribes. But I got along with Tommy. Because I feel like if you're like, hey, like, I'm doing my job, you're doing your job, and I am out of cash, like, since we connected kind of on a personal level, that could just be like a, hey, man, do you have $5 I could have? Because I, like, blew all my money and have nowhere to stay. Which is in itself not, like, a gross thing to do, necessarily, but the power differential of, like, me being a cop, asking for money then becomes different. You seem like a man who knows about drugs. I'm pretty sure I had that option before. What are you hauling anyway? I'm gonna see if something else opens up. Bear with me. I know we've been through this conversation before.
Oh, high-grade narcotics, illegal firearms, stuff like that.
Relax. He's merely joking.
Okay, and what are you actually hauling?
Can't even get a few jokes past you, my man. I've got another haul of found cargo. Mostly sporting goods, tracksuits, and that kind of thing.
Oh, I want some pants.
They usually get shipped to Grad in the Occident. Though we've been making headway in the Il Moran market lately.
I want one of those tracksuits, but I'm really just grossed out by the thought of bribery. I don't want to ask for bribery, but I need new pants. Trousers. Then again, this is a video game. Bribe Me With Pants is the name of my new grunge band. I just want new pants because I don't like my disco pants. Okay, if I don't get a disciplinary hearing for baiting a man into a disability, I don't think I'll get a disciplinary hearing for a tracksuit. Now, granted, in this case, I'm harming a corporation instead of a person, so that might be worth more, but... Like, I want to do these things. I want to take these risks and see what happens. Like, from like a gameplay mechanic perspective, I would love to have trousers that are not drug pants. Like, but I know if this were an ordinary video game, I would be like, yes, I can ask for these things. But it doesn't feel like it's an ordinary video game, and I feel like I can't approach it like that, you know? You know? I'm sorry. It's a conundrum. I could save scum. I did just save. Well, at the very least, this will establish kind of like what happens when you do this and how bad it is, or whether the game kind of like excuses it and lets it go. Let's at least... Okay, I'm gonna see. You can all make fun of me. I save scum over tracksuits, but not like actual character defining conversations or anything like that. This feels a lot pettier, so... No, I appreciate that the game makes me question such systems. I get the feeling that other people don't question the systems as much as I do, so that kind of makes me feel like I'm playing the game wrong, but... I am what I am. Okay, I'm gonna ask about the tracksuits. The worst that can happen is that I feel gross and I load my save. That'll happen, if that happens.
We're pals and all, but I can't just freely hand out the merchandise. The bosses won't be happy.
Fair, man. That is fair. Alright.
The man taps his fingers rhythmically against his arm.
I'm supposed to interrogate people about smuggling drugs. He'll probably be like, "What gives you that impression, sir? I am an upstanding family man." I don't like this. I want to just leave things with Tommy, but I'm supposed to investigate this. And there's nobody else I can talk to except for the old lady who doesn't want to talk to me about stuff like that. Let's see. You seem like a man who knows about drugs. Let's see what happens. I may back out of this. We'll see. I'm trying to be a little bit bolder. I'm not a very bold player, naturally. You seem like a man who knows about drugs.
Ah, man. Me and narcotics go way back. Had some good time surfing the psychic waves of my own consciousness, you know?
All right, okay, this is cool. This is not becoming weird yet. He folds his hands behind his head and leans back.
But those days are behind me. There are other addictions in my life now. Why the inquiry, my man?
Okay, so I can say, do you finance those other addictions with drug trafficking? Or, I need to get high and I'm looking for a dealer. If I want to actually investigate this and have the highest chance of success, probably going slightly undercover in that regard, because I have a very plausible cover story of being an addict. Could be the way that's most likely to actually get me there. If I were watching a movie about this scenario, that's what I would expect would happen. And then the question would be, is Ocelot gonna like fall off the wagon and all this drama ensues? You know, that's what would happen in a story like that. I'm not really a like crime person. I don't really do crimes. So the most Lauren option here is probably the stupidest option here. Okay, look, but property damage in video games doesn't count as crimes. But the most Lauren option here is to appeal to the man's empathy and try to get him to trust me as one person to another. If I think that he likes me and trusts me personally, which I have gotten the vibe that we have actually a pretty trusting, like relatively speaking, obviously, we're mostly strangers. I'm a cop, etc., etc. But it felt like we kind of had a connection. And he could be a really good actor. He could be bullshitting. He could do superficial connections really easily and not actually trust underneath that. So, like, I know that this is a risky move because of that. But, you can try to figure out where the drugs are coming from by going undercover as the cop who needs drugs because you're an addict, and then in so doing, try not to do the drugs yourself while also bringing down the drug smuggling ring. And it's very exciting, and my dad would definitely watch that movie. That's a dad movie right there. But you could also have the like, hey, there's some bad guys in your workplace and I like you and trust you enough that I'm gonna like bring you into like my inner circle of confidence. Can you help me find who the bad guy is who's hurting people? And I'm pretty sure that movie exists. This movie might exist too, I don't know. People would be like, Lauren, that's a stupid movie. It's unrealistic and boring. For the like, I'm gonna ask you to be my ally and help me bring down the drug smuggling organization ring thing. But that's fine. I'm gonna pick that option. And if it turns out that he's not trustworthy and he goes back and he reports to the people, hey, the cops are looking for you, I can at least report to Joyce that I'm looking into it. Stopping the drug smuggling ring is if Joyce is to be believed, the drug smuggling ring is a problem that exists and it's a problem, and I probably should want to stop it if Joyce is to be believed. It's not my primary goal, but I do want to stop people from being hurt. I don't know. If this were a more cynical game, then they would want to take advantage of the fact that Tommy is set up to be trustworthy and likable, and they would set me up and then be like, ha, we got you. We made him seem trustworthy and likable, but instead he's gonna fuck you over. Ha ha, you can't trust it. People are gonna get you. And I would normally expect that from a cop story, but I don't know that I expect that from this game. So, you know, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down being true to myself. And my Ocelot, who is trying to be straight and narrow, even though I feel like the way I've been playing him is maybe out of character for him, but whatever. I'm going to pick the answer that I can live with, and if I get myself killed for it, oh well. At least I don't regret doing the things I've done and saying the things I've said. Alright, let me be straight with you. I'm trying to figure out who's smuggling drugs out of Terminal B.
We have a credible lead, sir. Someone on this roundabout is waiting for a bulk shipment from the harbor to load it on their lorry and drive it to Jamrock.
The lieutenant steps in. So I think, based on the way this is set up, I feel like Kim is trusting my read on this person, that he's trustworthy and someone that we can confide in. Kim has also observed my interactions with him and has reason to, I think, see like that like we do have a good rapport, and like Kim isn't like, oh shit, what are you doing, Ocelot? Whereas I think if I tried to like open up to somebody who we hadn't seen that from, I think Kim might have tried to damage control. But I think at this point he's like, I will follow that lead. This seems like a reasonable thing to do.
Not me, man. No way. I don't need any trouble. Shit's bad enough anyway. This jam's got folks up in arms, and I'm afraid it's headed toward a conflagration.
I love that he uses words like conflagration. He's a poet, though, so it behooves him to have a broad, expansive, even, vocabulary. The more words you know, the more readily you can pick precisely the word that you want to convey the meaning that you are trying to get across. Alright, so I can either say, wait, then why are you still hanging around? Or, who do you think could be conducting the drug trade then? I want to ask both of these. No, then why are you still hanging around? It's because the thing is blocked. The jam. And then who do you think could be conducting the drug trade then? Whatever, I'm going to ask this, even if this is bad. Why are you still hanging around?
Gotta guard the stuff. Bosses don't look kindly on missing cargo. And it gives me time to work on my rhymes.
Is it time and rhyme? Sorry. That sort of subtle thing put in there kind of reinforces his poetic nature. It's nice. It's a nice little touch. Bosses don't look kindly on missing cargo, indeed. Maybe if I came here at night, I could take a tracksuit, but then he would know it was me. He'd see me in the tracksuit, and he'd be like, man, I'm gonna get in trouble for that. I'd be like, sorry, man.
A rhymesmith. This is quite credible. It goes with its cadence and way of speaking.
Okay, so they did intentionally set up time and rhymes. I was like, maybe they just did that because it's a natural thing to say. No. No. They did that intentionally. All right, writers of Disco Elysium. There are obsessive nutcases like me who will pick up on shit like that. Not everything. Obviously, there will be things that I will overlook, but you know, I hope that they know that the little dumb levels of detail like that they put into it, like, people notice and people appreciate. Okay, well, that's great. I'm delighted. I also love calling him a rhymesmith instead of just a poet. It's nice. Maybe he and what's her name? Night in the Woods. Selmers, thank you. Thank you. I was getting there. I wasn't getting there. I had an S and an M, and I didn't know what else was in there. Selmers. I feel like maybe Tommy and Selmers can could get together and write poetry together. Agro 101, thank you for following, friend. Thanks, some triangles, that's not wrong. Oh, I love that Mac and Sirius Inc. both said the same thing, basically. This game, I think that's maybe part of why I do have as good a time as I do with this game, is even if our souls are different and the way we look at the world is different and the kind of stories that we want to tell are different and the texture of the world and the people that we create are different, At the same time, at the end of the day, we are, like, both the writers of this game and I are obsessively madly in love with words and love people. And I think that those two things are where we're able to connect rhetoric and empathy. That's really cute, though. All right. Should we have a bingo card? Should we? Here's a question to everybody, and we can talk about this on Discord, and you can talk about this in YouTube comments if you want to as well. Should we make a bingo card for Lauren playing Disco Elysium, and then you can just like see every time I stream like who gets a bingo? I don't know how to do that, but I think it would be funny. I think we've talked about this before, but I don't remember if we ever came up with anything to do with it. If somebody can figure out how to pull that off, I would be very excited. Yes, Chrono did make a Lauren bingo card that was more generally about Lauren streams, but it wasn't specifically the Disco Elysium one. But since it looks like I'm going to take literally forever to play this game, we can start compiling bingo card slots and start making a bingo thing. And then you can all play bingo. And if it's spoiler bingo, then I don't get to be involved with it. But I would be delighted to know that it's happening, even if it's behind my back. Discourse Elysium free space. Yes, bubblegum. That is, yes. Fair. I didn't put on the Discourse Elysium when I talked about other stuff today. Probably should have. I need to remember that I have that option now. Whoops. All right, back to the game. Sorry. Who do you think could be conducting the drug trade then?
Look, man, I try to stay away from the criminal underbelly of Revachol. I'm a guest here. You really need to find another man to probe with those questions.
Oh, he's mad. Like, the way that he's responding to this actually makes me more suspicious of him than I was before. Because if he had just been like, man, I don't know, I stay away from that. Like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. That is more in keeping with Tommy's personality as we've seen it so far. And that would be a way to deflect my questions in a kind of a non-negotiable way. Sorry, man, I can't help you. Wish I could. That would feel more in keeping with his personality. Instead, it seems like I'm ruffling his feathers. And that seems a little strange. Like being asked if you know this stuff. Like, no, man, I don't know. I stay clean of that. Like, no, like he's like really like chill, whatever. So this is striking and a little bit strange. He's a little aggressive about it, which makes me feel like maybe actually, much as I don't actually want him to be that, he might actually know more than he lets on. I don't like that.
We wouldn't say he's lying, sire.
Drama, on the other hand, disagrees with me. Drama thinks that he's telling the truth. All right, Drama. All right. I can read things about people, but I am more inclined. Idle animation should be on the bingo card. That is a good suggestion. Somebody write these down, please. We didn't have the idle animation yet this time. See, I know that I personally have a predisposition to assume a negative reaction or negative response to things when I talk to people. I am more likely to read neutrality as negativity and to internalize that it's against me. So, like, if somebody's having a bad day and they seem tired, I'm going to be like, they seem down and withdrawn and not talking to me. They seem like they might be mad. They seem like they might be mad at me. It's a problem. It's a problem that I know about. But that also, because I know about that, that means that even though on some level I'm good at reading people, and on some level I can pick up on changes in rhetoric and things that seem like interesting tones, like tone of voice changes and things, I also know not to listen to my gut without questioning it, because I am aware of my limitations. So the end result here is that if Drama says that he's telling the truth, I might put more stock in Drama's gut feeling than my gut feeling. Yeah, rejection sensitivity is part of it. That's definitely a component, but it's also just something about the difficulty that I have reading people. Like I think I said last stream, I've kind of realized that my skills at reading people, they're skills rather than a natural ability, so meh.
It's not a lie. It's something else. Impossible to say what at this point, but there's something in him. Some trepidation.
He's scared of the people who are actually doing it. That's why he doesn't want me to ask him about it, and that's why he's making sure that I don't try to make him my ally, because he's scared of being seen as being buddy-buddy with me about this. That's my guess. If it's not that he's lying, that means he is removed, but he is forcefully trying to prevent me from pushing him further, and I think that's why. How come it says challenging success, but it only requires 10? Medium, 10. How does that work? I don't understand. Because this was medium, 10, and this is medium. No, that was the one I had over here. Okay, challenging was 12, and my total was 13. Okay, got it. Thank you. I got that. I got that eventually. Okay. Sweet. Well, because you have to think about why would a person in this situation do this, and that's my expectation, especially because like trepidation is a very specific word. Well, I'm glad to know that empathy and I are on the same page. Drama is there to help me out, but empathy is there to be like, no, actually, Lauren, you did pick up on something. Okay. I wonder what happens if I poem at him. Do I have... Yeah, I mean, empathy is my, like... Do I have anything else that gives me conceptualization? I want to poet at him. Kim will be like, oh my god. But I don't want to do it anyway. I don't have a very high likelihood of doing this. I wonder if I hadn't pissed him off with the drug thing. If I could have gotten a plus there. Yeah, no, the way that the skills play off of each other is fascinating. And it had to have been super, super, super complicated to keep track of, like, what each skill does and how they relate to each other. And, like, the billions of flags for each skill that you could possibly have going into it. Because I'm like, obviously this game requires you to be good at empathy and rhetoric, clearly. But that's just one way of many to play through. So... I'm trying to remember if I have any more gear. Basically, if I can put on clothes to poem at him. Hold on. Conceptualization is up because of my glasses? No. Do these glasses? Yeah, no, that's visual calculus. That's not the same. What gives me conceptualization? Oh, my stupid shirt. Got it. How is it? Okay. I am personally offended that rhetoric is only 4 and conceptualization, logic, and encyclopedia are all higher than rhetoric. As a point of pride, I'm going to put another point in rhetoric, even though there is no reason for me to put a point in rhetoric. Do I need it? No. Do I care? No. Rhetoric is really important to me, okay? Ding. I have another point that I could put in something. Should I try to make it so I'm less likely to die? No. No, I don't care. I love rhetoric. And I was offended that it and drama. I was just like, man, I'm not getting as much rhetoric. Rhetoric slipping behind some of these other things. Unacceptable. I mean, that sounds like a decent strategy, Chrono. Okay, we're gonna keep that. Yeah, having a point sitting around makes sense. But I'm so satisfied. I'm much happier. This makes me much happier. Like, fuck you, authority. I can swear. I can say that because it's Disco Elysium. And you can tell I just do not care about physique, like, at all. And I don't really care about motorics either. Oh, man. That's dexterity, right? Yeah, that's dexterity-ish. I have tanked my authority and I don't fucking care. That'll probably bite me in the ass, but it's fine. That's fine. I don't care about your authority. The only time I would care about that is if I'm, like, going against, like, Everard or somebody, but he's just gonna destroy me. I will just be devastated by him. Look at how high empathy and Inland Empire are. I'm a little bit nervous about that. I don't know how high these numbers can go. But those start to feel a bit much. I don't know. We'll see. I guess I'll get more levels. I don't know, man. I don't know. How come I can have more points in endurance? What is this? Why does this have 4 and these all only have 1? I guess there must be something I've got. A thought. Okay. I want to put more points in rhetoric. I don't need to, though. Thought cabinet. Rigorous self-critique. Thought about that. Yes, that's my sorry cop. All right. White morning. Oh. This also reduces authority. Wonderful. This game knows what I want. Little guy gets further and further away. That's interesting. You see yourself from above. You're passed out on the blue tiles of the hostel room floor. Even from this distance, you can see your eyelids flutter at the mention of what? A great white object, letting out its sweet smell like a lily of the valley. The little man's forgotten its name, but he still remembers the feeling. And look, he moves. The feeling animates him. He instinctively reaches out for the feeling's best friend. A bottle of Commodore Red. He puts on his disco clothes and gets smaller and smaller. Heh. Wow. This is a man who is fucked up. See, I could also put a point into my thought cabinet. And then I could have more thoughts. I'm gonna have to change out some of these thoughts. I'm gonna have to put points at some point and forget about some of them. I don't know which ones I'm going to take, though. Alright, let's see. Character, inventory. Inventory. We don't have anything else that's going to improve my conceptualization, does it? Don't think so. No, I need to work on that. Alright, well, let us save. And then let's try some poetry. We do not have a 1 in 2 chance of getting this, so we're probably not going to get it. But we can try again. Let's poet. Are you ready to poet?
Still here. Stuck in this damn jam, my man. What's up?
Let's jam. Oh no. Oh, Chrono beat me to it. Okay, let's summon the power of slam jams. Let's do it.
Your best verse? You don't even have a bad verse in here. Just tumbleweed and liquor stains. Wait, no. What are you doing?
He's gonna poem, embarrassingly. Am I gonna take morale damage for trying this? Amazing. Amazing. Okay. She broke me. She fucking broke me. But it's like got quotes around it. So it's... Let's listen to him. Am I gonna take morale damage? We're gonna find out. You're gonna take morale damage watching this one? Yeah, maybe so. We're all gonna take morale damage.
That's brutal, man. But you know, time will...
Oh, let's see, he's a nice guy.
No, stop. He's already mortified.
No! I don't know if I can keep this. I might have to stop this. We'll see where I go with it. Because he says, no, Tommy, these are my rhymes. Listen. And they just say, she fucked me till I bled. Which is a direction I don't know that I want to go. So we're going to see where this goes. Just to warn you, I may load my save if I'm uncomfortable with it.
That's,
Yeah. Damaged morale.
In the name of God, what are you doing?
Oh, jeez! Oh, my God! Oh, jeez. Oh, my God. You can either say, it's not real, guys. It's not my actual thoughts. It's a poem. Kim is really offended by this, and I did take her morale. I will never be the same again. She's always there. Fuck the case. Fuck everything. Total doom. Okay, I'm sorry, but unless you're, like, screaming it over, like, black metal or something like that, like, you can't really do that. I might load this one. I'm gonna load this one. I'm sorry. I don't usually save scum. I save scum over the dumbest things. Did it? Hold on. Did it save my... Yes, it did. My rhetoric. That's important. I recognize that I save scum over the dumbest things and I'm fine with it. Not just cringe, but like, I'm like literally uncomfortable with it a bit. So. Look at his little head turning. Guess we can go talk to this dude. Although we're getting close to hitting time. But we also started a little late, because we always start a little late. I guess least I can do is say hi to this guy. I doubt he's going to be a super involved conversation, but we can give it a try. Unless you folks are like absolutely like, no, that's going to be a big long thing. Like the clipboard was a big long thing. This man says, welcome to Revachol. He's friendly. He's friendly. Seeming. Let's talk to him. See how many months it takes me to finally talk to this guy. Somebody made a comment, which I thought was funny. It was like stream 19 or something about Lauren not talking to or ignoring the guy outside of the Frita. Yeah. Alright, well let's at least say hello to him and see what's up. I can always... Are you lost? You look lost. Out of place. That is true, I do.
Welcome to Revachol.
Announces the rotund man. The remark isn't addressed to you, it's addressed to the lieutenant. This is the racist lorry driver. So he's going to treat my partner here, who's not a white man, as though he is a foreigner. I did not intentionally overlook this guy. I don't think he said or did anything that clued me into him being gross. Why are you addressing my partner like that? I'm getting into a fight with this man. Are you ready? This is not gonna go well. So I can't clown choose this. I'm not even gonna bother with the other options.
Don't you welcome to Revacholmi.
The
My
lieutenant-
grandfather came here from a 3,000-year-old racist isolationist culture, while your ancestors came to this island a mere 300 years ago.
The lieutenant fires back. Kim doesn't need me to defend him, but I'm gonna do so anyway.
Every school of thought and government has failed in the city, but I love it nonetheless. It belongs to me as much as it belongs to you.
Okay, so I can either say you tell him, or what's happening? You sound angry, Kim, or say nothing. Okay, so Kim usually likes to be left alone to deal with his feelings internally. He doesn't like for you to draw attention to, as far as I can tell, he doesn't like for you to draw attention to whatever he's working through. So you just kind of like let him cook, I think is the current slang. I'm definitely not going to say two, because I can tell what's happening. I want to, like, you tell him is like patronizing, and I don't think Kim will like it. But Ocelot is not the most gracious person, nor the most graceful. Yeah, don't you welcome to Revacholmi is a good line. No, it is good. It is well written. Kim can stand up for himself. Like, okay, my understanding of Kim's tendencies as a character make me want to choose 3 as a show of he can handle this himself and he prefers to handle things himself. So stand there and offer silent support and then step in when you need to, but don't step in for him. That seems to be the way Kim tends to prefer things. You tell him does seem patronizing and awkward. There's always a possibility that saying nothing could be interpreted as a lack of support, but because you tell him seems so patronizing, I think that 3 might actually be the better option. So I'm going to go with that.
It's men like you who keep Revachol divided, making it that much harder for everyone to climb out of this post-war limbo.
Okay, yeah, Kim is on a tear. He does not need me stepping on his toes. I'm going to let him do this. He lets me do things when I'm on a roll. I'm going to let him do this while he's on a tear. You kick his ass, Kim. Yeah, if you could erase the racism, then people could actually band together and get more things done. Be good. That's, in fact, the invention of whiteness was in order to prevent people from rising up against the people in power and taking back the power over their own lives. Eracism, Chrono. Nice. Yeah, because whiteness as a concept was conceived of by well-off people in the colonial era of the U.S. when indentured servants of various backgrounds, and I think possibly enslaved people as well, were starting to kind of band together against the owners and wealthy. And you can see they've actually, like, you can see their letters as they talk about, like, we need to keep these people from banding together. We need to make them hate each other more than they hate us so that we can divide them and weaken them. So this is not me just making shit up. This is, like, actually provable in history. And that's where the concept of what white is came from. And that's part of why whiteness is so malleable and flexible, so that different groups can be added to it when it becomes politically convenient for them to be included instead of kept out. And therefore, sometimes people who are outside, but less outside, will turn against the more outside groups to try to earn membership in the in-group. Yeah, Italians, Irish, Jewish people, all of these are categories that did not have whiteness extended to them. And eventually they did. I know in the case of Jews, it's kind of a conditional whiteness that functionally speaking, it's white passing, but there continues to be a distinction that is drawn in the minds of like the particularly problematic people. So that could conceivably be taken away. Yeah, teach the worst white man that he's better than the best black man and he'll never notice you picking his pocket. That kind of sentiment, yeah. Yeah, it's really something. It's really something. It's not something that I had known about until, what was that? There was actually a podcast that I was listening to. I'm trying to remember. Oh, and all the names are leaving me. But there was like a history of whiteness podcast. I don't remember if that's what it was called or what. But it was very well researched. It was led by two academics who then talked to other academics and experts and historians and people who would know. Very fascinating. If you're in the US or interested in that sort of thing, I strongly encourage you to listen to that, learn from it, and do some reading as well. Because you should always consult multiple sources. Always. I don't care how expert someone is, you should always consult multiple sources just to be sure that will stand up. I did some reading and research and stuff on that during the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020. So anyway, yeah, so Kim is right, actually. Racism does actively divide people that could otherwise work together to improve society, and that is something. Even if you're not like opposed to racism because it fucking sucks, at least be opposed to racism because it like makes things worse for everybody. It really does. All right.
What he means is fixation on the Revacholian nation makes it harder for Revachol to actually attain self-determination.
He's right. You're undermining our best shot at real self-determination. Which, this is my rhetoric. Notice the point. I put a point in rhetoric and it's paying off already. But this is Ocelot's rhetoric. So the words that rhetoric uses are words that Ocelot can use because he's plagiarizing himself, which is allowed. Or I can say, stop ripping into this guy. He's just really proud of being Revacholian. No, fuck that. I'm sorry, I'm swearing more in the stream than I think I've ever sworn on Disco Elysium. I'm like swearing like a normal person instead of a person who doesn't usually swear on stream. Fun times. Limbo, what's going on here? Or, okay, I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to say he's right. You're undermining our best shot at real self-determination. I'm going to back Kim up like this because I think that this is, like in this case, I'm not being patronizing or gross to Kim. I'm backing him up in a way that I think is okay and he won't mind, but we'll see. I'm glad actually I chose to say nothing before because I was letting him go on a tear. We're gonna get into a fight with this man.
Oh, come on, man. I just said welcome to Revachol. It's a lorry driver thing. So
it's because I stuck my nose in as a white man that this guy's backing down, I think. I was like, this is just gonna be like some guy with some dumb little problems, like hello, badoo. No, turns out he's really racist. Yay!
I know exactly what you meant. You think my kind doesn't belong here, that I should watch myself and behave.
I bet if I had more points in authority right now, I would be trying to make this man wet his pants. I'm pretty sure that authority wants to make this man wet his pants. Positive. It'd be like all like intimidating cop. Are you gonna mess with my cop friend? Because I will kill you. Don't do that. Don't do that, Ocelot. It's not a good direction. Don't kill the man for being racist. Just tell him what a pathetic pile of bones and flesh he is.
But you see, I'm an officer of the RCM. It's actually my job to make sure you behave. I would advise you to remember that.
who cares what Ocelot's authority is doing? Kim's authority has it under control. Oh, man.
Silence. The air between them becomes tense.
All right. Please don't have a big fight.
Your partner needs backup. Now's your moment to shine.
I can either say fucking A, Kim, I've got your back. Give the lieutenant a punch on the shoulder. Be like, well, I think we all learned something here. Or now that's settled, we have a couple of questions. I feel like one is too patronizing. Like, if I smile with my teeth at the Lorry man, if 2 is like, well, you've learned not to be a piece of shit today, haven't you? That would be the right answer here. Because Kim would know that that's me backing him up and telling this guy off in a way that doesn't patronize or devalue Kim's ability to stand up for himself. That's me making fun of this man while still letting Kim be in the position of, like, a position of authority in the conversation. So that's what I would do if I could be sure that smiling at the Lorry man there was showing my teeth. It's a bit of a difference besides, well, sorry my partner yelled at you, which is the other thing that could mean. Then again, Kim is being really aggressive towards this guy for Kim. Like, this is Kim aggression. So it's possible that this kind of aggression is appropriate. Where he's like, kind of like fuck you. I will push you, like, I'm in charge here to make sure, like, I have the power here. And I'm like, yeah, fuck this man. Like, that could be like a, yeah, and then we like totally like bro high five while like dolphins jump into the air behind us and there's like a choir of electric guitars singing and sparkles. I'm sorry. Maybe they should be sharks instead of dolphins. Yeah, no, it's not surprising. Like, the way that he responds to this makes it very clear that he has had these conversations before many, many times. And these are conversations that frequently happen in real life. Real people have to deal with this shit a lot. And so, for a person who is, like, you know, a visible minority whose rights to be in the place that he lives is questioned, to step into a role of authority, he's going to have to assert himself a lot. So, yeah, I think I'm going to be cringy and support him. I think at this point, this doesn't undermine Kim. I hope this doesn't undermine Kim. And I just don't want to take the chance. I don't want to take the risk that number 2 is supposed to be siding with the Lorryman. But I think it would be nice to be like, oh, we've all learned something, haven't we? You know what I mean, though, right? All right. See, I will say part of the reason why I'm feeling like I want to proceed with caution during this, notice whose fight is this? It's Kim's fight. Why is the phrasing that Esprit de Corps gives me your moment to shine? What does this have to do with me? How is this my moment to shine? One of the problems with well-intentioned white folks, or folks in a position of privilege, if we're not talking about racial issues, but we're talking about other issues, but in this case we're talking about racial issues. This is especially prevalent in racial issues, and white folks who mean well, who really want to be good people and support their friends of color. Like, there is this desire to be a hero, and sometimes there's a desire to be a hero that kind of, it's the thing that's kind of like subconscious. You know, it's not like you're like a mean, bad person or a selfish, awful person if you do this, but it is something to check yourself and think about inside yourself. Am I making this about me? Am I trying to feel like a hero? Am I stepping into the protagonist role of this situation instead of just like supporting the other people? Like, is this more about me than it is about them? And that's a problem that it can hurt the people that you're trying to help, and it can distract from the situation on hand. I had a friend who was a guy, a cis guy, and we were Facebook friends, and I was part of a community that had a lot more kind of regressive status quo protecting white dudes, and I got a bit of a reputation as being an uppity, whiny feminist who rocked the boat and made a fuss about nothing and was always complaining. And this friend of mine, like, I would sometimes try to have conversations, and one of the things when I'm in a good state of mind, I can control my emotions and use my rhetoric and empathy to get through to a person. Like, for example, if you never mention the word privilege, but you're like, oh, well, of course you haven't encountered this situation before. It just hasn't come up in your life. That's completely reasonable, and I wouldn't expect you to know about it. But I know that you're a reasonable person, and I know that we're friends, so I'm just letting you know about this situation you wouldn't know about as far as, like, sexism, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes I would be having a conversation like this with somebody who'd said something kind of grossly misogynistic, but not in a like super nasty, really poorly intentioned way, more of like a place of ignorance. And they would be kind of coming along. And then this friend of mine would stomp in and type paragraphs belittling this guy who I was having this conversation with. And he would immediately, like, the person I was talking to would shut down and get really defensive, and it would undo all of the progress that I had been making. And it's because this friend of mine wasn't thinking about paying attention to what I was doing, wasn't asking himself, what did I need? Wasn't asking himself anything about me, wasn't checking in with me whether I needed help or support or anything like that. But he was kind of centering his own need to be like the good ally defending people, and like just stomped all over it repeatedly. Like this was not a one-time thing. It happened a lot. Like this guy on a lot of his friends' pages would like type paragraphs starting fights with people even when there wasn't a fight. And like that's just an annoying thing on the internet with paragraphs of text. But it's the mindset of centering yourself and your desire to be a hero over what's actually happening and what's actually needed. And I think that it is important to step back sometimes and make sure that you're not just centering yourself. You can make fun of me for taking time and not just picking an answer here, but this isn't real life. This is a video game, and I'm streaming, and I'm talking about something that's really important to me and that I think is something that people need to think about. I'm not saying you shouldn't support other people. I'm not saying you shouldn't step up to be an ally. I'm not saying you should stand back and let somebody suffer and be like, be under attack. Sometimes you step on your friend's foot because you're trying to block a punch being thrown at them, and you deal with that. Sometimes you make the decision that seems best in the moment, and then maybe your friend is like, in the future, could you not do that? And sometimes you try to give your friend space, and your friend is like, could you back me up more? And then you're like, okay, mental note. Like, it's not like there's like a handbook on how to deal with situations like this. It's not like there's like the one true path that if you follow this in all instances, there will never be a problem. Because every situation is different, and all people are different. And marginalized communities are not a monolith, so one person might actually just want allies to come in swinging no matter what, and one person might want allies to stay the fuck away no matter what. And if you're trying to do what I do and be somewhere in the middle there, either one of those people is going to get mad at you. But I do think it is really important to be aware of this and to think about it and to sit with yourself a little bit and be like, do I, what do I do? How do I approach things? And maybe, don't question yourself so much that you never take action. Take the risk that you might annoy your friend a little bit. Okay, that's fine. But try to be aware and intentional, and try to be a good ally, and try to learn what communities generally say. And if you're close friends with somebody and this sort of thing seems like it might happen, ask them, hey, I know that things are tense right now, and we walk around a lot together. If somebody says something to you, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to intervene, or should I let you take the lead? You could always ask. Because ultimately, the people that you know and are around are probably the people that this is most likely to come up with. So that's a big old tangent, perhaps, but it is relevant. Ocelot is not the most graceful person, like I've said, so he's not going to pick the perfect answer. I'm going to choose to back Kim up over trying to be graceful because I can't trust option number 2. And I think that Kim will take well-intentioned, ham-fisted allyship and appreciate that, because for him, the feeling of we're cops and we've got each other's back is paramount. That's super important to him. So I'm going to pick that option. Fucking A, Kim, I've got your back. Give the lieutenant a punch on the shoulder.
You two make a cute couple. You know that?
The Lorry man spits. Great, okay.
The lieutenant exhales and resumes his regular calmness.
All right, so that was not the right answer, but that's fine.
You sense slight embarrassment for the outburst. Or is it pride? Impossible to tell.
Kim is both proud and embarrassed. That's relatable, actually, having both of those feelings together. You're proud of yourself for speaking up for yourself. You're proud of yourself for speaking well. You're a little embarrassed because you want to believe that you're somebody who can hold it together and be calm and rational all the time. It's very Kim. But, all right. Now that's settled, we have a couple of questions. This man's not going to answer me, but that's fine.
Whatever you say, officers.
He waits impassively, cigarette smoldering between his fingers. I could give him the racist mug, no thanks. Alright. So naturally my inclination is to want this man to be the one who's involved with the drug smuggling because I don't like him. But as has been shown with Joyce and Everett, they don't make that so simple. Alright. What are you hauling?
Oh, not much anymore. I'm here to pick up some cargo, but the dock workers are on strike, so it's a sit and wait on your ass situation.
Okay, wait, how long has this been going on then? I appreciate that, that tension just kind of falls away. So he'll actually answer some questions. Ugh. If we were trying to be as effective as possible to get as many answers as possible, I would try to be like, hey, I'm a little racist too. Will you answer my questions honestly? But I don't think I could do that, so. How long has this been going on?
The strike? Oh, they've been at it for a while. A month, 2 months maybe. But this here is just the last week or so.
What kind of cargo are you supposed to pick up?
Apples.
Apples?
Apples is exactly the kind of thing you'd say if you had something to hide.
I mean, Rhetoric could be overthinking it, but apples is a weird choice. It just feels weird. I'm going to say apples?
Yeah, apples. I take it you had other questions?
I don't think I can intimidate him right now. You're a Lorry man, right? What's your stance on drugs? See what he has to say. He'll be like, I don't do them. Why are you asking?
Drugs? They're shit, man. I don't let anything pollute my body.
Oh, the writers are not subtle a lot of time. Because immediately following that is the flavor, or the descriptive text. He takes a long drag on his cigarette. That's really funny. That's great. That's the sort of thing that people actually do say. That's very human. Why not?
You know where that shit comes from? Sarah Mirizza, Safre, Ilmara. They take the money from our local junkies here and then use it to outcompete us in the manufacturing sector.
He doesn't do drugs because he's too racist to do drugs. I'm sorry. That's wild. I did not see that coming. I don't know why I didn't see that coming, but I didn't.
They know they can't beat us in a fair fight, so they have to get us to weaken ourselves somehow. It's racial sabotage, racial economic sabotage.
Like, okay, so if I want to actually get this man to come clean to me, I would say, listen, I agree. It's our responsibility to keep this poison off the streets of Revachol, right? That would be the right choice if I want to be effective. I don't know if I can bring myself to do that, though. Because I can say, hold on, they make alcohol in Ilmara, too. I was told they do. Or, so I take it you're not smuggling drugs out of Martinez. Man. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I have enough brain capacity to finish this conversation. Because I don't understand still. I don't understand how the game works enough for me to feel like, oh, I can try to, like, get in good with the guy to get information from him. Because, like, the game will start acting like I believe the things that I say if I say them, you know? Like, if I start, like, getting buddy-buddy with the racist guy to try to get information out of him, the game's going to treat me like I've been thinking about doing a racism. Not to mention Kim, obviously, will be understandably uncomfortable with that. I could really sloppily ask about... If I ask one more guy about the drugs... I mean, word's going to get back, probably, that the cops are asking about the drugs. The thing is, if he's upset about the drugs coming in here... This is too many decisions. I'm sorry I overthink everything. I can't help it. You know, they can't beat us in a fair fight. Blah, 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 blah. I'm a racist asshole. Okay, but what about alcohol? Let's ask about this. Do you not drink either?
I don't go for that foreign piss. Proper booze is made in Mundi. Or sometimes I like a dram of that Yugograd vodka. Koikos and worse much, but they do no booze.
I wonder if that is some kind of a slur about... I assume this is Eastern European folks. So he's okay with foreign booze if it's from white folks, but not if it's not from white folks. People that he feels are white folks. People that he feels are like him. I don't know if whiteness is a term that they use or if they have a different term, but his racial group within his umbrella of us instead of them. So I take it you're not smuggling drugs out of Martinez.
Not in, not out. I'll never betray the purity of my tribe.
Okay, you're too racist to do the drugs.
So you're telling us that you don't know anything about drug smuggling through Terminal B?
I don't know shit. And if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
That's fair. I wouldn't think you would. I would think I would have to be racist for you to actually come clean to me. I don't know that that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Okay. He puffs on his cigarette. So I can say, then what are you still hanging out here for? Most other camioners have left. You know what I should have done? I should have come back and had this conversation with my authority points on. I could have intimidated this man. That's okay. I'm not going to do that.
What do you think? I can't leave the lorry unguarded. Stuff's been getting looted lately. It's those little kips sneaking on at night. If they touch my stuff, the bosses will be on my ass like ass cancer.
I'm pretty sure this is also another racist term right here. There's just a feeling, and this is the kind of guy.
There was a bunch of spilled boxes in the back of a big lorry nearby.
I did see one lorry with the trailer doors open on my way here. Do you know what happened?
Yeah, I knew that guy. He was an honest driver who loved this country. We were having a good debate about genetics at the Wheeling in Rags when some kip boys smashed his lock and took damn near everything. Lost his fucking job over it.
I don't know if I noticed that, but Ocelot did. Alright. Well, they were racist together. And then the guy lost his job. Can't say I'm brokenhearted about that, but really...
Since he left, I haven't had anyone to talk to.
He takes a long suck on his cigarette, appearing to savor the taste.
If they were getting drunk inside the Whirling in Rags, how could they know who broke into the lorry?
Okay, so I can actually ask him, if you were all were at the Whirling, how do you know they were the ones who broke into the lorry? I might ask that, instead of bad for him or serves him right. Let's go ahead and take the option that logic gives me. This guy's not going to like that. He's going to shut down and get mad at me, but that's fine, whatever.
What? Aren't we allowed to say that he's a kips who do all the stealing around here? That's not road to science, man.
Incredible. Alright, if it's not you, then who's running drugs through Terminal B?
Isn't it obvious? Fucking Sealand. That beady-eyed South Samaran. His little side business is a scam. I wouldn't be surprised if he was peddling drugs as well.
Wait, the street vendor south of here? That guy's a lorry driver? No, I just think that he's probably related to drugs because I'm racist.
Of course he's a lorry driver. What? He tell you he's just some simple businessman or some shit? He's selling his employer stuff after he broke the seals on his Humanux lorry.
Oh my god. What?
His tribe are natural liars. It's in their blood. He's your man, alright? 100%.
He nods in a sagely manner, then another puff of that cigarette.
I wouldn't be so sure about it. Not until we've heard what Sealang himself has to say.
Guess we need to pay Sealang a visit then.
Guess so.
He grins, contented with himself. I don't think it's going to be Sealang. This is going to be some uncomfortable stuff. I'm going to save. Well, that was fun. We sure did a lot tonight, didn't we? This has been eventful. I made progress. Okay, look, I progressed plot-ish. I did stuff. I did this side quest for Joyce. I'm pursuing that. I opened up the clipboard and nearly had a heart attack. I don't know if I did anything else, but that counts, I think, as being pretty productive. Oh, this is one of the first guys that people talk to. Okay, well, I'm glad that he wasn't actually, because I think he might have colored my impression or expectations for the game in a way that wouldn't necessarily have been accurate, if that makes sense. Oh, well, I'm glad that I'm glad that it has become a running joke. Yeah, I encountered Tommy first, and I believe that was the moment that I said, okay, this game is actually going to, or there was a moment where I was like, okay, this game is actually going to have a loving view of humanity. If I had encountered this guy first, I wouldn't have come to that conclusion. So I'm glad, actually, that I encountered Tommy sooner. Obviously, the characters that they create run a full spectrum of sympathetic to less sympathetic. And it may very well be that Tommy is involved in the drug trade. I don't think so, not directly, but I do think he knows more than he lets on. And I'm going to investigate that. Maybe I can make him see that we can bring down the big scaries if he'll help me out. But we'll keep investigating that and see what happens. Yeah, it's an interesting game. It's definitely like part of why I have, oh god, his full name is Stop Being Racist. Racist is just his surname. That's a good line. Thank you. I feel like if this game were more the color of my soul, for example, I would hesitate a lot less with that is a racist thing he just said. I would hesitate a lot less with my my dialect choices because I would feel like I had a better sense of what I could expect. But I still feel like I have no idea a lot of times. Like, I'm getting a bit of a sense for how to talk to Kim, but like, I don't know how much of it is a game and how much of it is like say the right thing and how much you should be thinking about gamifying conversations versus just talking to people or whatever. Like, there's something about me and this game that I feel is just completely uncalibrated, and it's really uncomfortable and funny. But I'm doing my best. I'm digging into it, and I'm allowing myself to load saves if I'm not comfortable with what happens. And we'll see kind of how things go from here. But it's interesting stuff. I hope you enjoyed the tangents. Thank you so much for listening to them and tolerating them. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. Seeing what kind of a clusterfuck, I can swear, this can happen. As a reminder, I won't be streaming on Tuesday of next week, so instead we're gonna have my Deltarune and Undertale video essay is gonna go live on YouTube. So if you want to check that, I think it'll be at noon on Monday. And I'd love for any of you who've played those games to be there. Let me know what you think. If that goes well, I might go ahead and make more of these. Yes, if you have ideas for making the bingo card, we can absolutely put something like that together if somebody else is willing to take point on that. I'd appreciate knowing that madness is happening. So yeah, thank you all so much. You've been absolutely delightful. You've been a lovely audience. I appreciate your patience with me and my weirdness, and looking forward to what happens next week. We'll keep going with this for the indefinite future. All right, take care. Bye.